It is 6 p.m. and I will open up the informational hearing on the vote from a 3 to a 5-member select board. There was a petition signed requiring the board to hold a vote on a move from a 3-person select board to a 5-person select board. And as part of that vote was set for June 3rd. And as part of the statutes, we're required to have an informational meeting prior to that meeting, and that's what this is. So that's the information that we have. Does anyone have the?
Yes.
Would you be willing to read that?
Yes,
read
it
that
said
one?
by Australian ballot, Article 1, shall the voters approve expanding the select board from 3 members to 5 with staggered 2-year terms per statute 17 VSA 2650.
So Jessica published some information in Front Porch Forum and elsewhere about that, how to get your ballot and the vote. I'm not particularly sure what exactly, does anyone know if there's any other statutes I need to cover or specific things that need to be addressed?
The only, and I think it's because I haven't missed the last month of meetings, probably too late because I haven't been warned, but the VLCT recommended not having that, all the language in there. They recommend having just shall the select board be expanded from 3 to 5. And so put the rest of that stuff in there, but I think now that it's warned,
I think
it is what it is,
I
and
think
Well,
ballots are.
and the requirement is that they have to be either 1-year terms or 2-year terms, not split anyway.
yeah.
So,
But they said just get the thing passed and then you guys can define it how you want to define it. And then put it up there.
anyway,
So
But
this,
that's basically what we did the last time this was up for the vote, is that the people who petitioned were there because they were, and the select board, which happened to be me and a iPad, because we only had 2 members, 1 member had was overseas at the time, and basically we read the warning and so it was by Australian ballot.
so I think the way that I'd like to run it is I'll open it up to public comment first. Please limit your comments discussion to 3 minutes. Is there any public comment on the petition? The informational hearing on the vote from 3 to 5-member select board.
Yeah, we got 27 minutes, Jim. You could run the table here. You could.
Basically, I think, but just remind people
Has
that
to be off the agenda.
June 3rd from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. the
Voting at
polls
the
will
high
be
school,
open.
yep.
And you can early vote now.
Yep.
Yeah, yesterday Jessica said that, ETA meeting, she said that she'd gotten 77 ballots and so forth.
That's terrific.
And they're not gonna use, and as long as we're sitting here, nothing to talk about. We're not gonna use the ballot machine because that costs like $1,500, and with a simple yes, no, it'll be super fast, even if 1,000 people vote, which I think is not gonna happen.
No, it
It's
won't.
pretty quick to sort those yes, no, and get a result.
And even don't vote.
Yeah, and then she was talking about that if there's an election, I said, I think probably it's gonna be appointed by the select board, but she said, if there's an election, I said, if it's not contested, then we can hand count it again, but if it's contested, if there's 2 seats and one of them's contested, then you probably want the machine to do it, because it's hard to sort into yes and no's, because you've got one person voted for this person here, and then this person, something different, so.
Sure.
Exactly.
Okay, any other select board comments?
Not at the moment.
I have a comment. This is my own personal feeling on it. I just want to share it for the record. So when I ran for select board, somebody convinced me to do that. And I did. And that person also tried to convince me of the need for a 5-person select board. And so one thing that I said when I ran, and I honestly mean it, and I still mean it, is that I came into this role without my mind made up on anything. Like I didn't come in like, hey, I want to get blah, blah, blah done. I really came in to listen to the problems and then work towards solutions. This question has been talked about a lot. It was talked about a lot the year that I ran, there was a lot of talk about it. And I kept an open mind about it, did not decide either way for quite a while, until I could understand, the whole picture. So I have really spent a lot of time thinking about it. And I have decided that I am opposed to this. And I'm just going to list the reasons that I oppose it. But before I do that, I want to say most of the people that are for this are people that I respect a lot. There are people that I like in town. I want everybody to understand it's not a personal attack on anybody that's pushing this. I understand the reasons that they're doing it and hope to remain friendly with all of these people that we work with day in, day out, running the town. Here's why I oppose it. The only official work that can get done in the town happens at this meeting. So lots of research can get done, lots of committees can meet and come up with proposals, but those proposals or whatever happens is not official until it happens at this meeting. And adding more people to this meeting is going to slow these meetings down. Because you're going to be required to have 2 more people that weigh in on every single subject that we do. And let's see what other notes that I have here. And they should share their opinion, right? Like we voted them in, there's 5 of us now, and so you should take the to listen to these. So agendas are going to have to be shorter. Public input is going to be restricted even more than we already have it as we try to keep our meetings efficient. The next big reason that I'm opposed is I think this opens up less open government. So at a VLCT select board training that I attended, I asked about the other towns that went to a 5-person select board. And I asked how many of them did it for the reason of the open meeting law quorum rule, which is if you have a quorum of people that are part of a committee, open meeting law forbids you to talk about business of the town. So 2 people on a 3-person board make a quorum and therefore are restricted from talking. That is the biggest advantage to going to a 5-person board, is those 2 people can now talk. VLC couldn't say for sure, but there was assumption that it was their assumption that all the towns that made this move was because of that. So what that means is now a special interest can now meet with 2 select board members to get their buy-in on a project or whatever their special interest is. And all of that meeting can now happen outside the public view. You don't have to take notes. You don't have to report anything. It can be completely in secret. And so then those 2 people, those 2 select board members can then come back with their mind already made up. And all of that discussion happened outside the public meeting. And then what's to stop that special interest from going to 2 other members and having all of that discussion happen legally outside of the open session? Those are my reasons that I am against it. I do understand there are advantages to going to it, and I do understand that the main reason that a lot of people signed that is that all of our surrounding towns have decided to go to a 5-member select board. Those are my comments.
Well, it actually has happened with polarized boards that it actually has happened where, that is the con to a 5-member board. That because if you have a polarized board 3 and 2, A can talk to B, B can talk to C, or A can talk to C, and have everything on the time before you even let the other 2 people have a chance to speak if they were already shut out. And that has happened in Chittenden County. But it's the 2 sides of the same coin. So, I mean, people just have to be aware of that. When they think of-
Yeah, I'm talking about, I'm supportive of the proposition. I hear what you're saying, Eric. I'm not really worried about, the special interest piece. I hear what you're saying, but I just don't, that's not on my radar, and I feel like more people at the table is going to bring more perspectives and more smarter people, hopefully, to the table to move the town forward.
Peter? Any last option for public comment? Oh, Jim.
Jim Carroll. My first town meeting was 1967. I've lived here for 47 years. I have a degree in political science and I've studied constitutional law all of my life. I spent most of the day listening to the Supreme Court talk about what's going on right now. So I can assure you, I've heard everything you said. And it's about not what goes on in this meeting. It's about the very intense, skill-based decisions that go on outside of this meeting. And I've got a degree in finance, that a bond for $4.5 million and the building of a $4.5 million building, et cetera, and whether we have our own trucks. These are complicated, technical, skill-based decisions. And there isn't anyone on the board as we sit here right now that has skills in the physical attributes of public infrastructure, the operations of a public business like we have. We've got 7 people working over at the town garage. And there's a lot of issues. There's a lot of liability issues and there's a lot of work. The staff work and the preparation for the meeting that you're talking about, Eric, needs to be done outside of the meeting. And just so the card is face up on the table, the next piece is to have a professional executive called the town manager, authorized by state statute, which takes us 18 months to do that, to make this easier and more effective for the volunteers who come in to be on the select board. We're dealing with really complicated stuff. You're spending 300 grand for a truck, $4.5 million for a garage. These are monumental issues. And the free lunch that we've had with our good rapport and relationship with our senators and congressmen feeding us money from Washington for at least the next 3 years, that party is over with. We're going to be in a serious financial crunch, and we need to really figure out what the priorities of the town are. And some of the priorities of the town that I think are just overwhelming is the safety of the children. I bought a radar gun, by the way, so now I'm going to be an expert on how fast people are going. You take 2 triac trucks from Jericho Center doing what I call pony nose to tail, like a cow, at 35 miles an hour. That's 180,000 pounds of iron. And the roads are not safe. It beats the crap out of the infrastructure, and we need to do things differently. And you guys are doing everything that you can. But we need to do things better. We need to do them strategically. And I think that having 5 people, 2 of whom can go off and work on a project and come back in open government and explain what it is that they've interacted with, the people that they met with, I think we're going to have better governance. I think it will be easier. Yes, we could elect a total jerk. So that is always the risk in a democracy. But I think
Got that right. Should have led with that.
and being regarded as one of those by more people than I care to think about, including my own family. But I do think that this is going to work. It's going to work well. And we want to get an active, positive view. And I'll just use an example. I think you spent $180,000 on sheriff's, something like that. I use round numbers. I think you got about 30 grand or 34 grand in fees. I think that we should sort of reverse those numbers. In other words, get $180,000 in fees to match the cost. But that's a whole study all by itself. But I know that I've speeded in my life, but I'll tell you, when you're known as a speed town, an anti-speed town, that you got speed traps and you're effective in your policing and all that other stuff, then everybody, because a CDL guy, those two guys driving that truck, if they got caught doing 10 miles an hour, nose to tail, that's 3 points. 3 more points, they're unemployed. So the trucks and speed limits and all that work and the quiet, because our infrastructure is crumbling because of all the trucks that are going through, being driven too fast. And I just think there's a great opportunity. But I've seen people hit by cars, and I don't want to see that.
Thank you, Jim. There have been a few more people that joined. So one last call for public comment. This is specifically just on the informational hearing on the vote from the 3 to a 5-member select board. The regular meeting of the select board starts at 6:30. Okay, do I have a motion to adjourn the informational hearing on the vote from 3 to 5-member select board?
I so move.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. We will reconvene in 13 minutes. Can you pause the recording, please? Okay, good evening, everybody. We will call the May 15th edition of the Jericho Selectboard meeting to order. In order to make our meetings more efficient, we are limiting public comment to the beginning of the meeting, the public to be heard section. Select board meetings are in the public, not of the public. There will occasionally be agenda items where we ask for public comment. Tonight, there is not one. So we will open up with public to be heard. Please keep your comments to 3 minutes. Couple agenda item updates. Do I do that after public to be heard? I just do it. I'm just gonna do it.
Do it now, yeah,
Okay.
before we get to the budget,
right, yeah.
before we get to the agenda.
Yeah, so we are not going to be covering the continued discussion on how to utilize the additional 30,000 for traffic safety. We had talked about this at the last meeting and we had opted to wait until we had the CCRPC report, which we do expect soon, but we don't have yet. So we're going to table that for this evening. Then we just got a request in the Zoom chat to swap agenda items 1 and 2 because somebody was running late for the CSWD. So we'll do the CSWD budget second, and we will move the VTrans update on Bridge 15 to first. But first is public to be heard, and this is for anything on the agenda, off the agenda. This is the only public comment that will be open for this evening.
Can I ask one question before we do that?
Yes.
Do we have any timing on that report? Because we got the data on
Yeah,
town meeting day.
Linda just said that she spoke with the CCRPC person doing the report and they expect it very soon. Within a couple
Like
days.
next week is what he
Oh,
was
okay, so
thinking.
today is not.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yep.
yes.
Great.
Yeah, they've been extremely busy with all kinds of things, and people being off on parental leave.
Yeah, I do see, I'll start online first because I noticed the hand first. Heidi Klein, I see your hand. You have 3 minutes. Oh, sorry, one other thing that I always include that I forgot to say. Please do not use the Zoom chat for anything other than technical issues. The example of somebody being late and wanting to swap agendas is a perfect example of a good use for it, but please don't make comments
Okay.
or anything in the chat unless it's like, hey, I can't get my hand up, I can't come off mute, those types of things. Thank you. Anyway, go ahead, Heidi.
Yeah, hi, thank you so much. This is Heidi Klein here with my husband, Steve Goldman. We live on Fitzsimons Road. And I think I heard you say, Eric, this is the only time for public comment on anything on the agenda. So we came to be able to learn a bit more and speak to our concerns about whatever the plan is going to be in terms of signage and detouring while the bridge is being repaired
On Brown Street.
on Brown's Trace. I went looking on the AOT website to see if there was any detail about that, and I couldn't find anything, but it would be very, very helpful to understand what the plan is in order to be more specific in my comment. But in short, I think you heard from us the last time that we are concerned that there be ample notification to drivers that they have alternative routes other than Fitzsimons Road for their detour, because Fitzsimons Road is both a dirt road, it's a residential road, and it is used not only by us on the road, but it's used by a lot of folks in town who recreate, because it is one of the most beautiful roads for just walking and biking. So folks generally see it as a safe place to go from end to end. And we're talking about the season at which that is most likely to happen is the same time that the bridge is going to be closed and there's going to be a detour. So I'm hoping that we can get some detail and some significant signage that prevents people from thinking the best way to make a plan is to cut through Fitzsimons. Thank you.
Thank you, Heidi. Brent, you were next.
Up here.
Whichever works.
So 3 minutes, pretty quick, so I'll keep it pretty quick. About a month ago, we had some ditch work done on Sully Hill Road, right above the main area. That's because we've had these large berms on the side and all the water comes down and is dumping. The ditch was put in right past the culvert. The water should go through the culvert. It's not, because we got the berms. The ditch work that was put in, the road's now about 5 to 6 feet narrower than where you ended up on the previous section. It's basically one lane. I do
And
20.
this is further, like, so I'm
It's
picturing
just around the curve. Just
like
around the
up,
curve.
up, like going up, like that boulder that sticks in, so past that.
Just past that.
Okay.
There's a curve there.
Mhm.
And the problem is, I mean, they put the ditch in where they could, but there's ledge. And it's the ledge side. So wherever the ledge sticks out, they just took road.
Gotcha.
And so it's now a 1-lane road. I do 20. Pretty much anybody going up or down will stop. Both cars will stop. We'll go, you know, but the problem is, unlike the other section, this is much steeper. It's also a blind area because there's a pitch change. So as you're going up and coming down, you can't see each other. People are now starting to walk, bicycle. So we've had people miss the curve, go into the woods. Anybody going fast, if they don't stop, it's going to be pretty bad. So I did email the highway department. It's been about a month. I haven't heard back. I didn't know the proper way to kind of move forward with this, but it's quite a concern for safety. Okay. Similar issue right in front of my house. We've had the problem with the ditches not being cleared out. So they cleared out right in front of my house and dumped all the material right next to my stone wall. Made a huge wall. It's about 2.5 feet. And we're getting huge erosion because it's about 100-foot path. And it's running, basically dumping all the material onto my property. So I don't know, I've never seen that in 30+ years, why they would take material and just dump it on someone's property. Make it so that there's a really high-speed ditch and then having all this erosion. So somewhere or the other, again, I just need, I'd like to talk to somebody. I've waited about a month. I thought that was adequate. I just haven't heard back.
Okay.
Those are the 2 issues.
We will follow up with the road foreman and see if he's got comments on those things.
Thank you.
Thanks, Brent. Other public to be heard, sir.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Bernie Paquette. I live on Brown's Trace in Jericho. At the last select board meeting, I asked 4 questions regarding the speed control item that was on the agenda at the time, and I previously been for tonight, which I'll ask again tonight. I'll actually ask 3 of them. One of them you answered a few minutes ago. One is, what's the tool and location selection process to determine what tools to be used in what neighborhoods. The next question is, will the board solicit input from multiple neighborhoods on the specified proposed locations and tools using the 30K for spending control measures? I just comment that the need has been demonstrated. The tools the tools available defined. Now we have choices to make. Let's make community participation meaningful. The next question is that I asked previously was, when will potential matching grants be available? And what's the timeline for the applications and the use of the funds? I'll have other comments when we have an open discussion on the topic, the next time it's on the agenda, but I'll just lead with saying a model, if you will. Let's take back our streets and neighborhoods. Say yes to slower and safer streets. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you, Bernie. Other public to be heard.
Members of the select board, in Jericho, my name is Peter G. Franzoni. I'm a Rutland City citizen, so it's not being one of your constituents. I humbly thank you very much for allowing me the opportunity to speak. I'm a veteran. I recently went before the Board of Aldermen in Rutland City to demand that they make a declaration condemning the attacks on due process and affirming our constitutional rights. And they did so. They passed it unanimously. We did this because I feel that our federal administration is making attacks on the constitutional integrity, on our constitutional integrity. As a soldier, I took an oath of enlistment to support and defend the Constitution. So did our president. He took it twice. He went on national television 3 weeks ago and point blank, when a reporter asked him, as president, you need to uphold the Constitution. He said, I don't know. I've been accused of partisanship in my efforts. So far, I've had 4 towns now that are doing a resolution. I plan to continue so until the governor does something at the state level. It's a paper tiger. It doesn't compel anybody to do anything. All it is an affirmation saying we as a community realize that there's a lot of problems going on right now with immigration and all kinds of other things, and they need to be solved. But messing with our Constitution, even temporarily, is not the way to go about doing it. Hundreds of thousands of Americans, soldiers, law enforcement, public, elected officials have sacrificed and died to support and defend our Constitution. All I'm asking the towns to do is drag a pen across a piece of paper saying that that sacrifice is not in vain and our Constitution means something to us. For those that would accuse me of being partisan of this, for anyone that would come to me and say immigration is basically an open border policy right now and we have thousands of dangerous people coming to the United States, I agree 100%. Immigration is out of control. I'm also old enough to remember it used to be huge and bureaucratic and boring and functioning. We didn't have to think about it much. It was safe for citizens and immigrants alike. And decade after decade, I've seen them ship support and funding from it from both sides. I have liberals come to me and say, oh no, it's always the Republicans that vote the money away. And I say, yes, Clinton administration was one of the largest damages to the immigration. 4.5, 5 million people that were deported without proper due process in his administration. Why are my efforts being a little more intense now as opposed to before? Shamefully, it's because I have loved ones that are being affected. I should have been in this fight 37 years ago. There is no left or right in Washington, D.C. They're playing us. They've been playing us for decades. There's 2 things in Washington, D.C., money and power. That's it. Time after time, administration after administration, we say, here's the problem, fix it. And they say, vote for us, we'll fix it. And they get in there and they do whatever they want. And we say, why didn't you fix the problem? And it's the same answer, no matter who you're talking to, because the other side won't let us. They got us scared of our public institution. They got us scared of our science, our medicine. Now they got us scared of each other. And that wasn't enough. Now they got us angry at each other. We can't even smile at each other in the grocery store anymore. We're trying to run each other off the roads. People have forgotten how to talk to each other. We have no more common ground left. One common ground we have as Americans is our Constitution. We, the people. It wasn't written yet. They could have put anybody in there. They could have said, we the white Europeans, and nobody else, men only. They didn't. And they said, they were blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity. That's us and everyone after us. No ifs, ands, or buts. I got asked why I bring this to local politics instead of addressing it at federal level. Well, as a soldier, I followed my chain of command. My commander-in-chief has made many statements that have damaged the Constitution, and I tried to let him know my concerns, and he did not hear me. I told my representatives to the state, or senators to the federal government, they told the president, he didn't hear them. Nor did my governor hear me, nor my representatives to the state of Vermont hear me. But I went to my local alderman, and I was finally heard. The public laws in Vermont that were passed right before the Civil War, when they were trying to hunt escaped slaves and just black people in general in the northern states. And our federal administration refused to do anything to stop them from the non-slave owning states. Vermont was the first non-slave owning state to make public laws.
You're a little past the 3 minutes. If you could wrap it up, please.
We went to our local institutions and we asked them to pass local legislation to keep these things from happening. This doesn't really do it. As I said, it's a paper tiger. It's just basically an affirmation saying there's a problem and it needs to be fixed, but this isn't the way to do it. Thank you so much. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your comments.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for your service.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And I can be reached. You guys have my contact.
You can stay if you want. We're going to talk about that. If you want to stay.
Yeah, we are going to talk about it, and it's a little ways down the agenda.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Last call for public to be heard. All right, VTrans, come on up.
A short presentation here. Talk about the bridge replacement, Bridge 15. Great, found the
Yep.
You should be all set.
Just click the X, yep. Good work.
All right. So here to talk about the, it's a pre-construction, pre-closure meeting. Let's go to the next slide. So tonight we have a few folks here representing the project. Engineers Construction is online. Julianne Tong back behind me is the resident engineer. She'll be stationed at the site for the duration of construction. I'm Rob Young. I'm the project manager from Structures from VTrans. Tiana Barrows is here. She's the lead designer on the project. And Tony Kelly, Tony, is online as well. She is the public outreach coordinator for the project. So thank you for attending virtually, Tony. She has some information contact information at the end. She'll be the leading the public outreach effort for the project. So I'll talk a little bit about the existing bridge conditions, the proposed bridge, methods of construction that we're going to be doing this summer, the detour route, which it's already come up during the public comment, the construction schedule this summer, some contract information, and we'll have an opportunity for questions and comments at the end.
So hang on a second. Maybe we should amend this to allow questions since they're doing a presentation.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, so sorry, Heidi, that I made you go earlier. It probably does make sense to let you do questions after, so I'm learning that with the whole select board.
So this is a satellite view showing the location of the existing bridge site. This is Brown's Trace, Town Highway 4. And you can see that pretty wooded area. And it's the bridge is over Millbrook. So the existing structure was built in 1927. There was a significant flood then, and this bridge was replaced shortly after. It was reconstructed in 1962. with some minor concrete repair, actually as near as 2022, so not that long ago. So it is ending its end of its design life. It is structurally deficient. There's a narrow roadway approach to this project, and the existing hydraulic opening doesn't meet bank full width, and I'll have some good photos showing that. The bank full width here is 40 feet. The bridge rating this is the state system. The bridge, even though this is town owned, the state does have bridge inspectors that goes out to town highway bridges, and there's a rating system. And right now, it's a rating scale from 1 to 9. And so right now, the bridge deck is at 6, which is satisfactory. Superstructure is satisfactory, as well as the substructure. And the channel protection here is only a 5.
What's the scale go from?
Well, 1 to 9. So a brand new bridge would be 9. Okay, so here's a photo looking down the road here, showing the existing structure. It's like there's been some recent pavement repairs. It's just showing the existing railing that does not meet a current design standard. So a little photo from underneath the deck that's showing you this is a concrete T-beam. There's been some repairs to the T-beam. It's another photo of the kind of the zoomed out view of the same photo. Yeah, so this is the channel. So you can see how the abutment essentially in the channel. That's why it has such a poor rating. Just the bridge that they built was, I guess, convenient at the time, 1927, but it doesn't meet the current bank full width status
What is that? Can
requirement.
you explain that?
So the bank full width is essentially matching the channel upstream and downstream. So that's kind of where the river wants to go.
So right now we're pinching it off.
And right, so basically because it was more cost effective at the time to make that a shorter stop. I think this one is to show the abutment. You can see next to that K on the left, there's a crack that goes all the way down from top to bottom. So it shows that the deterioration of the substructure. And if you can look at this photo, there's a tape measure. And this is actually showing a scour hole. So actually the earth underneath the abutment is being eroded away.
So our plan is to replace the bridge this summer. The span will be increased from 38 feet to 55 feet along the roadway length. We're going to increase the approach and bridge width, the lanes and the shoulders. We're going to use precast, pre-stressed concrete solid slabs for the superstructure. So the beams basically that will be driven on. And then we'll have pinned integral abutments on deep piles for the foundation. And a retaining wall will also be constructed. So in this picture on the top, this is basically a cut cross section of the bridge if you were standing downstream and looking upstream. And this orange area is the existing area, and then this green area is the new area. So you can see how much space is actually increased for hydraulic capacity. And then the picture on the bottom is a plan view. So we're looking down at the new bridge, and you can kind of see dashed lines, which is the survey that was taken of the existing bridge. And then the solid lines are the new bridge. I oranged an area, or the area in orange is the existing area. So you can see that it's very narrow for the approaches, and then the bridge is a little bit wider. And the green is what will be there after construction. And it's just matching width from the approach through the bridge and then off the other side. The alignment will stay about the same as existing, so there's not much change there. But you can see this is, so the alignment is the center line of the roadway, basically. So the way that vehicles drive the road. So it's the line with the 900 plus 00 or 90 plus 00. And then we have the new retaining wall highlighted here. It's just going to be an extension off that wing wall. The photo on the top kind of shows what the front face of that retaining wall will look like, what will be exposed. Here's a picture of an example of what the beams will look like. This is from another project, but we'll use these pre-stressed, precast concrete slabs to expedite construction. And they're made in a fabrication plant. They're trucked to the site, set in place, and then they're connected with rapid setting concrete between the slabs, which sets fast. And this is a picture of the side of the bridge again, just to show that the foundation will be So it'll be these pile caps and then on deep piles, so we really won't have to worry about scour in the future. For the bridge, it will withstand flood events expected. And to just talk about methods of construction, it'll be a combination of accelerated bridge construction and conventional construction. So our overall goals are to combine these two different types of construction to build the bridge most efficiently. And we anticipate the closure duration of 45 days. And basically what I'm saying is we use accelerated elements where it's feasible. It often increases the cost. But that's how we can shorten the construction season. And we're using the precast pre-stressed solid slabs and the rapid setting concrete, along with the conventional components such as the cast in place concrete abutments and approach slabs. Here's a picture of another bridge, but it'll have very similar features to the bridge that will be in Jericho. So it has these concrete slab beams. It'll have a concrete deck. These concrete retaining walls will look similar. And the railing will be the concrete curb with the box beam guardrail.
All right, the detour. So I want to back up a little bit. So this project is participating in Act 153, which basically means that the town has agreed to close the road and not use a temporary bridge in order to get reduce their share by 50%. So that's great for the town because there's a reduced share for the project. However, it comes with strings attached in that the detour is the town's responsibility. And so I coordinated a little bit with Paula on just showing, basically saying that Barbara Farm Road is the preferred detour route that folks want to take. But I don't have any details tonight as far as like where the signs are actually going to go, but that is the town's responsibility. I don't know if anybody in the town wanted to comment on that.
Yeah, I can talk a little bit about what we discussed at the last meeting. And Paula can confirm some of this stuff. We talked about putting a sign up in the four corners in Richmond. So that's where people really like start to think about going that way. And, you know, once they're already up, I mean, I guess going that way, they could never get to, wait, could they? Could they get, yeah, they could get to, they could get to Fitzsimons, right? So they get to the bridge, they'd end up going on Fitzsimons. So in order to really reduce the traffic on Fitzsimons for all the reasons that Heidi mentioned earlier, we're gonna try to warn them in Richmond, and send them up our farm road, instead. And
Maybe the same situation like for Governor Peck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The bottom of Governor Peck.
on the bottom of Governor Check, yeah.
Yeah.
And I think what Jim had suggested, and I think we were gonna follow up on, or Paul was gonna follow up on, I don't know that I've heard back, is can we update Google during that time?
We had the same conversation on the way here and we've asked that question on state projects and we've been told no. So I don't know if that's just Google is just not accommodating to Vermont. I'm not sure what the situation is, but they don't typically, you know, deal with specific highway
They keep
projects.
sending trucks over Smuggler's Knots, so I doubt they're gonna, for 5 years, I doubt they're gonna rust.
Okay. Well, that's a bummer. Because people don't read signs either. Okay.
Well, I'll keep moving.
Well, and the
Yeah, go
other
ahead.
thing is talked about putting road closed except, you know, road closed to through traffic on Fitzsimons.
On Fitzsimons on either end, yeah.
Okay.
You had more?
Well, I was going to get into another piece of that, somewhat related, but we'll go to the next slide. So this is the project process where we awarded the contract in December, and the project will be built in 2025. I wanted to mention that this project does have incentives and disincentives. So the contractor will get an incentive to finish in that 45-day period, and they get additional compensation if they finish even sooner. And if they're later than the 45 days, there's a disincentive for like every hour that they don't complete. So I just want to let folks know, be aware of that.
And what is that time frame? Did you already?
45 days.
45 days starting when?
It is starting on July 7th is the proposed time frame. The contractor will likely mobilize to the site June 16th. And they're going, once the closure starts on the 7th, they anticipate the bridge opening on August 20th.
So does the detour go into effect on this June 16th or July?
July 7th would be
July
the full
7th.
closure.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a quick question. There's a trail just alongside that bridge that I actually frequent. Will it still be possible to travel that trail during construction?
What do you mean, is it cross, there's not a bridge?
Alongside the bridge, it comes down off of the hill, off of Brown's Trace, and a lot of people bike it to get to Fitzsimmons. It's like a cut through from Mobs. From one side of Mobs
You
to
won't
the
be able to
other.
cross the bridge.
It doesn't cross the bridge, but it does go close to the vicinity of where they would have the construction.
We can look at the plans after and see.
There is like a construction, I guess, limit of the project, so I'm not sure where the trail intersects that, but once you hit that, if there's, the trail goes around on private property, there should.
There probably won't be a lot of traffic on the road,
It will be closed, right?
at least on one side.
So a little bit of information about hours. So pre-closure, before July 7th, the contractor is looking to work 6:30 to 5 p.m. During the closure, it will be 7 days a week, 24 hours until the abutments are poured. So I think the contractor is looking to have some confidence in the schedule, and so they're willing to work a little longer, earlier in the closure. But they'll shift to 12 hours. And then post-closure, they're planning on working Monday to Friday, 6:30 to 5. So this is what I want to talk about earlier, and I introduced Tony earlier. The one thing that helps detours be successful, I know people see the signs and they want to go, but public outreach is really helpful, folks, as well. So Tony is the public outreach coordinator. I have a sign-up sheet here tonight. So if folks want to be added on to the email list, Tony's going to be sending out weekly updates of like what's happening, as far as the weekly updates of how the contractor's doing and how they're sticking with the schedule. And you can see Tony's email address there and phone number. And Tony, did you want to add anything?
Only that for individuals who are, joined via Zoom, I mean, feel free to send me an email. Alternatively, if the town is comfortable with it and you are as well, you could enter your email address into the group chat and we'll just add you to the list automatically with no trouble to you.
It's fine.
Yeah, and Tony can be reaching out beyond Jericho. I know this is kind of like a in-person and virtual meeting for Jericho, but there's no users of Brown's Trace that won't be here tonight.
Sure.
So Tony can reach out to those folks to try to get the word out, let them know about your signage, and your encouragement to use the park farm roads. And I think that was it. Any questions or comments?
Questions or comments for this VTrans bridge project?
I have a couple. The 24-hour work is gonna need lighting brought in. And is that lighting I don't know that area well enough to know, is there housing that's gonna be caught up in that lighting and having? That's gonna be you're gonna have full lights 24 hours a day for 4 to 5 days?
There is one house, and is there a lighting plan? I think Julie would have to answer.
Yeah, there's a lighting.
What does that mean?
That there will be lights, so the contractor is prepared to have lights if needed.
And I think we've reached out to those couple of homeowners, but ECI can confirm that. And, Cody, you've talked to the couple of homeowners that are close by, right?
Sorry, I'm having a little bit of a hard time hearing what the question was, but
The lighting, it sounds like ECI is planning on using lights, and the question to you was, you had contact with the homeowners close by for the lighting?
so specifically, I have reached out to all three of the adjacent landowners, the direct adjacent landowners, and I have all their contact information. So that answers that. Yes, we will have light towers for the night. We have submitted and got approved a lighting plan from VTrans. I will add that the lights are directed towards the work and are in general aimed down and at the work, and as much as humanly possible, we'll try to avoid pointing them directly at houses. I will also add that VTrans probably could also clarify or add too that there are noise restrictions at night and we need to abide by those as well.
Okay, that helps. Thanks. Do you have more questions, please?
I have one more question. If you can go back a whole bunch of slides towards the beginning, the slide called proposed bridge with a cross section that, yeah, right there. Can you, and I honestly, I spaced out for a second, but can you explain the green and the orange in the bottom image?
Yeah, so the bottom image is basically a plan view, so it's looking down on the plan set, the bridge. So, if you're looking down, traffic would be driving on the road this way. Here's an abutment, and the orange is what's there right now.
Okay.
So the orange area, so the approach is narrow, is what I was saying. And then, it's a little bit wider on the bridge itself, and then the green is the new area. So this will be a lane, these will be shoulders, and this will all be pavement in between faces of guardrail.
And then what happens just beyond that image, like in terms of the width of the road?
So it continues this way until we tie into existing.
And so the orange is the existing
Yep.
width all the way down the road.
Yeah, I don't know how consistent it is off the top of my head, but
But in general, the orange was there.
yeah,
It'll blend in back.
yeah. Yeah, we try to make sure there's no. We try to make sure it's a good, flush blend. I can go to the layout view. on
No,
the
that's
plans.
good.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
I'm good. That's all I got here.
I'm good. I'm good too.
Everything that's on the west side.
Oh, the path?
Can
Yeah.
look at-
I just, if it's gonna be closed, I just would like to be able to tell. It follows, like, all these houses go from this access point of Mobs to Fitzsimons, so there's trails all back here, just to the west side of the.
Oh, so yeah, so actually I just went by stake, so on the, your trail is
Up here.
right there, yeah, so you're gonna be close. But
It
it
is
looks like your
close.
trail is outside of that barrier fence.
And there'll be a, like Rob just said, a fence, a physical fence there.
Okay.
So you'll know where to stay out of the area.
That sounds good.
Yeah, safely.
I always wondered what that was.
Yeah,
It's an
yeah,
awesome connection.
that's good.
All right, well, thank you for.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks so much.
Thanks so much.
Okay, Chittenden Solid Waste District, are we ready?
Yes, we are. Well, I think if you press escape,
Awesome.
do stop sharing. No, maybe if I just take away your permission. There we go.
Yeah.
Eric stole your screen back. Okay, thank
Is
you.
it possible for me to share? I'm going to try sharing my screen here.
Yeah, I just clicked it
There we
back
go.
on.
Yep.
Okay, thank you very much. And thanks, Beth, for driving. I appreciate that. Thank you again for the time on your agenda tonight, and thank you for the flexibility in accommodating my schedule. It was a little late in St. George. My name is Sarah Reeves. I'm the Executive Director for the Chittenden Solid Waste District, and we are here asking for you to vote on our fiscal 2026 budget. And so who we are is a municipality that was chartered in 1987 at the request of our member cities and towns to manage the solid waste generated within Chittenden County on their behalf. And I show this slide for a couple of reasons to show our locations for sure, but also to point to the revenue pie to let you know where we receive our revenues from, the three main buckets, which are user fees or tip fees. So those are the fees that are paid to us directly by our customers at, say, drop-off centers or a compost facility to manage the material that they bring to us. Material and product sales, so the revenue from the sale of compost and topsoil, local color paint, sorted recycling, and solid waste management fee. And that is the fee that is charged to haulers for every ton of Chittenden County trash that they bring to the landfill. We do not see any revenue, do not receive any revenue from local property taxes. So we don't ask you for any money, we don't send you a bill, and we do not appear in your budget as a line item. Next, please. And we are here because it says in our charter that the legislative bodies of each of our member municipalities get to vote on our budget. So you can either vote to approve or disapprove our budget. Each select board and city council has one vote, not weighted by population. So Jericho's vote counts just as much as Burlington's vote. Folks also ask us how we're doing in Chittenden County. So I'd like to show this chart. And in the most recent year, for the data that we have, which is a year or two ago, of the nearly 307,000 tons of solid waste generated in Chittenden County, only one third, was landfilled. But of that 123,000 tons in that column 3, fully half could have been diverted away from landfilling. And where we're really focusing a lot of our attention on is those 32,000 tons in green. Those are organics and food scraps and the vineyard. We want to get all of that out of the landfill. So we focus a lot of our outreach and education activities on getting those food scraps and those organics out of the landfill. Next, please. So fiscal 26 bottom line this year looks pretty similar to our fiscal 25 budgeted bottom line. We're anticipating revenue in the amount of just over $16.2 million. We subtract out the cost of goods sold, which is the cost of things like paint buckets for local color paint, peat moss that goes into our compost products, and that brings us to a net of just over $16 million. We are budgeting expenses at just under $16 million. So we have a very tight budget this year, should everything go according to plan. Next, please. And so again, there's our pie of our income at 16.2. This is showing the solid waste management fee at the current rate of $30 per ton. And we're going to talk more about that in just a moment. Next, please. And as has been the case for the last several years that I've been presenting to you, our expenses fall into two main categories: materials management and payroll. Materials management are the costs associated with what we pay to haulers to bring materials that we collect on behalf of our members to the landfill, out to market. It's the cost it's involved with bringing recycling to market. And that's also where we budget our fee that we pay to Casella to manage to run the operations of the materials recycling facility. Next, please. So this year compared to, next year compared to this year, not much has changed, frankly, budget year to budget year. Just a small increase, just 2%, small decrease on the expenses, less than 1%. It's pretty much the same this year to next year. Next, please. Fee changes, not too much going on here either, but for one thing, which we'll talk about. So the increase to one bag size at our drop-off centers, the small bag will go from $3 for 13 gallons to $4 for 18 gallons. Mattresses are also going up. I don't have the specific numbers just yet. They will be published on our website the next week or so. Our vendor contract expired, so we have a new contract with that vendor, and they raised their prices to us. So we'll have to pass along some of those increases to our customers. No increase at the material recycling facility, no increase at the compost facility, no increase at the environmental depot. We are raising our solid waste management fee, though, from $30 to $40. So let's talk about that. This is not a new fee, by the way. This has been in place since, I think, actually prior to 1993, and it is the per ton fee charged to haulers for Chittenden County trash when it's disposed at the landfill or when they bring it to the transfer station in Williston, Casella's transfer station in Williston. So those who generate a lot of trash will pay a proportionally larger share of this fee. And this fee is used to help support district activities and some of our facilities to help us to achieve our mission on your behalf. It completely supports the administration, finance, compliance, IT, outreach and education. It partially supports our compost facility. Some years it helps support our drop-off centers, but this year the drop-off centers will not need the fee, support of the fee. It supports the environmental depot and the rover program to the tune of about 80 to 85% of that budget comes from this fee. This is how it's paid for. It also helps to fund some of our reserve funds. So our capital fund, the closed landfill fund, operational reserve, community cleanup fund, and a new reserve fund this year for the MRF project. Next, please. And this is why we need to raise the fee. So the new materials recycling facility that we are in the process of permitting right now has a projected funding gap of about $4 million. And it initially started due to COVID-related delays. We had initially wanted to launch this project back in 2020. That was the original plan. We all know what happened. We needed to really manage through that crisis for about 18 or 20 months. So that put us that much behind. In that time, inflation just started going wild. So prices of everything increased, including the cost of this program. But the real issue was the loss of our intended site on Redmond Road in Williston due to it becoming essentially now a mosaic wetland. So the site, and we owned that site. So the heavy rains of 22 and 23 have created a situation where now the site is reverting to what it wants to be, which is a wetland. We needed to look for a new site, and we found one also on Redmond Road at the end of the road. But that cost of that site was $3 million. So that was an unbudgeted, unanticipated, unforeseeable cost. So we looked at different ways to get back up on more things. Look at different ways to fund that gap. We did not want to take on more long-term debt. So voters in Chittenden County back in 2022 did approve a $22 million bond. But 82% of those folks who voted on our bond voted yes. So we know folks are very interested in this project and supportive of this project. Our long-term debt as a regional entity is backed up, guaranteed by our member municipalities. So if CSWD goes away, if we dissolve as a district and we still have debt, our member municipalities will be responsible for the remainder of that debt according, prorated, but according to population. We did not want to add any additional risk to our member municipalities. So we want to avoid more long-term debt. Other alternatives that we looked at were per capita fee, municipal assessment, increasing the MRF tip fee, increasing DOC fees. These were all deemed by staff and our board agreed as undesirable, not equitable, or insufficient to the short-term need. For example, if we had said we need to do a per capita fee, we need to do a municipal assessment, we would have had to have told you that by December 1st of last year. And that would mean that you would have to go out to your residents and would probably capture that revenue from property taxes. And we did not want to add anything more to the property tax burden. So we already do not accept revenue from you. And so we are not part of your property taxes. We did not want to be that. Next, please. So who pays the fee? We all pay the fee. If we generate trash in Chittenden County, we are all paying this fee. It's already incorporated into the overall fees charged to customers by haulers. So if you are subscribed to a hauling service, you're already paying our fee as part of your bill. So on average, Chittenden County households generate just over a ton of landfill trash or trash needing to be landfilled each year. The average bill is around $50 a month for trash services. Of that $50, at the current rate of $30 per ton, our portion is just under $3 a month. At the new rate of $40 a ton, our portion will be just under $4 a month. So the new rate should average around less than $1 a month impact for the average household. Next, please. And when we were looking at this internally as staff, I asked my finance director and IT director to crunch some numbers because they're good at that. So I asked them to go back about 22 years and look at what the solid waste management fee would have been had we all along each year done an annual adjustment according to inflation, according to the consumer price index. And so the orange line that does a little stepping stone there in the middle, that is our fee. That was what it was in 2003, $17 and change. We bumped it up in 2009. We bumped it up again in 2014, bumped up a little bit again in 2024. So that is what the fee was in real dollars. The dashed green line is if we had adjusted the fee annually according to the CPI, the Northeast Urban Class BC CPI, and that's the index that we utilize, the CSWD utilizes to determine our cost of living adjustment for employees. And you can see that we met the dash line in 2009, then we lagged behind. We exceeded it in 2015, then we dropped below again in 2021. The dotted line, the pink line, that's the garbage and trash index. And I wanted to look at that one because that is our industry. That's what we do. And you can see that we met that cost of business once for a year over the last 22 years. Otherwise, we have always lagged behind the inflationary cost adjustment for our industry. So had we been adjusting according to the garbage and trash index for the past 22 years, our fee would be today $39.21. So raising it to 40 basically brings us to where we should have been had we been doing small annual adjustments over the years. Next, please. So that is what we are proposing. That's what our board has authorized us to start to do, is to utilize small, regular annual adjustments, keeping pace with inflation, tying these adjustments to consumer price indices produced by the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics. We'll look at both the garbage and trash CPI and the Northeast Urban Class BC CPI. Staff will make a recommendation to our board by December 1, and then there will be a public hearing in January. Then our finance committee receives the budget and they do their review. They make their recommendations. We then will bring the draft budget to our full board in either March or April, and they will look at it again. So our board will have the opportunity to decide if there is an adjustment needed. And they always have the last say in the draft budget that then gets transmitted to you all. Next, please. So this is what the revised income would look like at that $40 per ton. So the 16.2 or the 16 million in revenue after the cost of goods are out, that is what is needed, will be utilized to pay our operational expenses. Every dollar over that 16 million, so every bit of revenue, so going up to 17.5, that will be going directly to the MRF Capital Project Fund. Next, please. And we are anticipating that in fiscal 26, that additional $10 and any other savings that we can grab should generate between 1.5 and 1.7 million in fiscal 26. We need to do the same thing in 27, and that should close the gap. Next, please. And we do have a recommended motion, a requested motion for you to consider tonight. And with that, I would like to take any questions you may have. I also want to thank our commissioners for their service, both Leslie and Tom. And yeah, I'd like to open it up to questions.
Questions from the board?
I just want to say that, as usual, it's a very well thought out, conservative budget. You know, with a lot of detail. Really always well done.
It is.
I have no questions.
You had that motion up there, if anyone wanted to
That's what we need to do.
propose such a motion.
Oh, there's a raised hand.
Oh, Leslie is our rep. I'll allow Leslie, go ahead.
Thank you very much. I just wanted to give a little more background to encourage the select board to support this budget and approve it. I am a member of the finance committee of CSWD. I am Jericho's representative, and I'm supported by Tom Jocelyn, who's in the meeting room this evening as the alternate. The working through the budget on the finance committee this year was extraordinarily challenging, and I want to underline the fact that while it is very painful for every member of the CSWD Board of Commissioners to approve a rate increase of any kind, the district was faced with two huge phenomenon far outside the district's control. The first was the inflation resulting from COVID. And now, because the building that has to be built for the new materials recovery facility is steel, there may be further price pressures as a result of tariff proposals coming out of the federal government. And the other unanticipated phenomenon, which I just want to underline, although Sarah did mention it, was the transformation of our original site for the materials recovery facility from usable land to a wetland as a result of climate change and 2 summers of extraordinary rain and flooding throughout the state. So basically, the Finance Committee, the leadership of CSWD, Sarah and her team, and the Board of Commissioners said this is something we have to do. The other thing that I want to underline is that the new materials recovery facility project is a must-have, because the existing materials recovery facility, which is our recycling, that's what recycling is deteriorating. And the cost of maintaining it is becoming quite high. And it doesn't make sense to keep pouring money into an obsolete facility that does not have the capacity to manage the amount of recycling that Chittenden County now generates and is likely to generate, particularly if we want to seriously reduce the amount of material that goes to the landfill. So once again, I am here in support and ask the Select Board to please support CSWD and approve this budget. Thank you.
I'll make a motion to motion of the support for the CSWD present budget as presented.
I'll second that.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Approved. Thank you very much for your
Thank you.
presentation and comment.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your time. Have a good night.
Next, we have update on the Jericho Town Library building. Catherine and Lindsay. Hello.
We have some documents that I think we shared ahead of time, but we have paper versions if you would like. Sorry?
I'm looking right now to see if we have them.
I think we have digital versions. Are these?
Yes.
Do you want me to share any of them on the screen?
Maybe in a moment. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
All right, I'll minimize that.
Thanks,
for now.
Linda.
And just, well, thanks for hearing from us. I'm Lindsay Hallman. I'm the chair of the Jericho Town Library Board.
And I'm Catherine Bass. I'm the library director at JCL.
And you've heard from us a number of times over the past few years. And we're here tonight with updates on the library building accessibility project, along with structural needs of the building, to give you an update from the work that we've done with Vermont Integrated Architects. And so we're going to go through those different reports and documents, but also just give you kind of an overview of the process, just to remind you of kind of like where we've been and where we are now. And we want to make sure that not only is the building accessible to everyone in our community, because it is not ADA accessible, but we also want to make sure that it is structurally safe and sound as well.
So a brief history of the project. The building itself is 200 years old this year. It was built in 1825. In 2011, the town began discussing accessibility concerns with the building and possible ways to come into compliance with the Americans with Disabilities Act. So in 2012, the town and the library board began working with Vermont Integrated Architecture. The work stalled out in 2015 due to a lack of funding to support the recommendations made by Vermont Integrated Architecture. In the early 2020s, the library board started thinking about
what work could be done now. And in 2023, a structural engineer examined the building and recommended some work to maintain structural integrity. We'll share some of that with you in a moment, but it included repairs to the foundation walls, the attic, the front porch. The Board of Trustees and the director identified and began applying for grants to try to increase our funding capabilities for the project. And in late 2023, the select board committed $100,000 to the project from ARPA funds. So then in early 2024, we began working with Vermont Integrated Architecture again. And then earlier this year, we had a new structural assessment done because the initial one from 2 years ago had indicated that it might be time to really start working on the repairs, and we wanted to make sure that the building was still safe. We also worked with VIA, and they have provided new plans and cost estimates for a phased approach that would help with the structural integrity and also accessibility concerns. So Linda, if you could share the structural report.
Yeah.
Thanks so much.
This one here?
Yeah, the top one.
Okay. Hold on, I have to share the screen. It's not on the Zoom yet.
Oh, yeah.
How do I get back to the Zoom?
Right there.
So I want to share. Okay.
And we can go to page 3, which is where Bob Neal, the structural engineer.
Linda, that didn't work.
Now go share, now go back to, now that it's open, now go back to Zoom and share.
Yep. Yeah, go to your Zoom, your main Zoom window.
This one?
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Go to the top,
This
see
one?
the picture of us.
Here?
Click at the top right of that little expand. Yeah, click that. Now click share. Now.
What?
See
Oh,
the-
this one.
Yeah.
That's, I
There you
picked. Okay, sorry about that. There we go.
Thanks. Okay.
Yeah.
If we go to, page 3 has Bob Neal's recommendations for what would keep the building in good repair and what we should be doing.
There you go.
So as you can see with the first point, it's been difficult for the structural engineers to actually access the attic to observe what's going on. So one thing that he recommended is that we do some work to allow people to access the attic so that they can see what's going on with the roof. He also suggested that we monitor the cupola movement and that we accelerate the construction of roof framing to reinforce work, and that we may need to do this ahead of a full renovation project, depending on the timeline for that. And then also similarly, we need to continue to monitor the foundation movement and possibly plan for replacement or buttressing of 2 of the walls should further movement be detected. There is also some work to do on the front porch. This work is fairly simple, the most simple of the items listed here. We need to reinforce the floor joist connections and also do some work on the roof of the front porch. And then we'll need to continue monitoring the front porch tiers, they're heaving up. And then review floor loading modifications with the structural engineer. So in summary, the work is mostly on the attic of the building, the front porch, and the foundation.
Yeah, so then knowing all that, and having a clearer understanding of like the structural report that we had done in 23 alerted to some urgency. And so Bob was able to provide some further detail around like, okay, well, these are the specific needs of the building. So when we met with VIA, Paula, Catherine, and I, we looked at the old plans from 2013, 14. There's been a number of plans. And we talked about, okay, so what are the priorities for this building? Knowing that, one, the building is a town-owned building and it's 200 years old. And serves as a really important part of the center and serves as a very important part of our community. So we want it to be structurally sound and safe for everyone. And then we want to make sure that everyone in our community can
access the building. So then those two pieces are obviously to do one and not the other, or to do them in different phases did not make a lot of sense. That if we're going to be working to bring our library up to where it needs to be right now for 2025 and into the future, that we both needed to address the structural needs of the building, and also then at the same time, simultaneously, be creating the conditions for ADA accessibility within the building. So I guess now we can look at the plan, the phasing plan 2.
Is that in a different document or is
That's a
it?
different
Okay.
document. It's like this.
Is it this
Yeah.
concept? Is that on the share screen or do I have to show?
Probably. Oh, what's up?
There? Okay.
Yep. Might not. Well, yeah.
Can I rotate it?
It doesn't really
Wait.
matter. It's actually the way that it is,
Oh,
or you could if you want.
There we
That's
go.
great. Okay.
And then let's do a zoom.
So the ways in which we went about thinking about the approach to this is let's in green is what needs to happen to the existing structure of the building. And then what would be the additions needed to bring it up to ADA standards, accessibility standards. You can still see the historic entrance wouldn't be going anywhere, but that would no longer be the accessible entrance. So the entrance would actually be on the side of the building, and that in blue would be an additional building, a new part of the building where there'd be a vestibule with an accessible pathway that would lead into the library. So anyone in our community could access the library. So they would enter through the side into this new vestibule, and there'd be a lobby. There'd be all the various parts of the library that are some of the things, all the things that are in the current library, including our bathroom, which is not ADA accessible. So there'd be a new ADA accessible bathroom. That's the WC, the mechanical, the janitorial, and the lift. So like where the lift would go to access the second floor. That would then allow for, in the existing structure, to remove the existing stairs. I'm not sure if any of you have been in the Jericho Town Library and have climbed those stairs. They're not very accessible for anyone. And so it would remove those stairs, make stairs that are actually compliant and up to code, and move them to the other side of the building, which would open up additional space for the library as well. So there'd actually be a lot more space within the existing envelope of the building, along with this new additional structure that would allow for the accessible entrance and an accessible bathroom. And you can see likewise on the other side, that's just this upper floor. There could be another bathroom upstairs, which, you know, there is a lot of use upstairs. Lots of different young families and programs happen up in the upper area. So there could be that option as well. Things are kind of open in the sense that like we didn't want to like start playing around with the design or anything, because really what's most important right now is making sure that the green pieces occur, which is the repair and upgrades, and the accessibility, which would be demoing the existing stairs and bathroom and putting in the new stairs. And then the addition in blue would provide the accessible entrance, the vestibule, the pathway, the platform lift, and then the accessible bathroom, and all the services would be in that new area. There is the purple future. If there is, if this is not part of what you'll see in the budget, but if we continue to have an increase in the use that we are seeing every month and every year at the library, there could be a potential addition. There's space for a potential addition for a community room, a children's room, or another space. That's kind of like a phase 2. Really in phase 1, it's all about the integrity of the building and making sure it's accessible to our community members. And then the total project budget is on the third document there.
All right.
Sorry for all of our documents.
No, that's all right.
It's important to note here that this is a budget and not a cost estimate.
Is that on the share screen?
We'll see it. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
VIA used the tool to, create a probable cost, in your copy there, this is based on the option that we just looked at, the plans, and it, also shows kind of a minimum and a maximum, just based on a number of contingencies that could occur, and then, so you'll see the total cost, the total project budget is around 1.799. Or 1.8, if you want to round it up there.
Where's that? I don't see it on. Oh,
Right at the bottom.
Yep.
And then you can see there's like, on either side, there's kind of a minimum, maximum based on contingencies.
And part of why we wanted to share this, this estimate with you is that it has much more specific line items than we've ever been able to share before. So that's the work that VIA had been doing lately. We have shared estimates in the past, but now we have, I mean, not exact numbers, but estimates for different pieces of the work. Like replacing the foundation.
Right.
Is that at the top here?
Okay.
Yes.
Would you ladies consider adding a bike repair station?
Bike repair? Hey, I mean,
yeah, we
that would be amazing. That's a great idea. Bike
I'd be happy to talk with you if you want to email or call or stop by. It doesn't have to be part of this. We can.
Yeah. I think that that's part of it, is there's a potential for a lot, at the Jericho Town Library. And what is most concerning right now is that this is, a building that is not accessible to the full community. And with more accessibility and more space, we can really explore other possibilities. So, I guess this gets to like, why are we here? Besides providing with the updates of, we've been working really closely with VIA. We've met with them a number of times, with Paula as well. We know that you have, designated $100,000 from the ARPA funding. Clearly, that's about a tiny portion of this full project. So, we are respectfully requesting that the select board, this town-owned building, we are part of the municipality. Catherine is a town employee, formally partner with the JTL board to address both the urgent concerns around safety and the integrity of the building, and accessibility. The town owns the building. It's not currently accessible to many of our community members and could present future safety concerns. And this might be but this is the right time. We are celebrating the 200th anniversary of the town center and the JTL building. And it feels like it's the right time to take meaningful action to preserve and revitalize this important community asset. And so to move it forward, we are proposing a joint effort that would include a bond vote at town meeting to support necessary improvements, along with a significant commitment from the Jericho Town Library Board, which are all volunteers, to raise additional funds through grants, donations, and community fundraising. I think this is a project that will honor our town's legacy and make it more inclusive for everyone in our town and add to creating a more vibrant future for Jericho. So that's what we're requesting tonight, is a partnership in moving this project forward.
I don't think we can make a decision tonight.
Well, I don't understand the question exactly. I mean, I think that probably the elephant in the room is like, you need money.
Right.
And you're asking us to make a bond. Given that we own the building, town of Jericho, feels like the partnership is already in place, that we own the building, and so we're responsible for it, et cetera, but there's a partnership, that's a big number, that's half of an annual budget at 1.8 or 9 million.
Almost 1.8, yeah. Yeah, they had tried for $1.5 million grant last year, but they did not get.
We did not, because it was granted to those libraries that are most impacted by the flooding. We did have a visit from the state librarian, in the fall.
Yeah.
And she, at the time, we were in a very different, conditions in our society, let's say. And so there was going to be released in January, the opportunity for us to apply for a HUD grant. And she felt very, like that was very promising. Those haven't been released, nor will they likely
No, they're not
ever
going
be
to be, they're
released.
cutting,
No,
they're cutting,
no.
they're cutting all kinds of libraries.
Yeah, I mean, so really the issue is like, how do we ensure that this historic building that is part of the center of our town and is used by so many patrons from all sides of Jericho and towns beyond Jericho, can maintain both its structural integrity. You know, it's a beautiful old building and has a deep history, and can be accessible to everyone. I mean, it's not compliant with ADA accessibility, and that feels like it's very shameful. Like as a member of the board, it doesn't sit right. And so.
So what are you asking for exactly? Like,
I think
what are you
that's-
asking, what are you
yeah.
asking for right now?
Right now, we want to move this project forward, and we'd like you all to help us move this I mean, the thing is like, we need you all to help us move this project forward. I mean, we can continue to fundraise and apply for grants. That's not a given. $100,000 is amazing, but that's gonna pay for, 1/18 of the project, right? And so, I think when we come to these meetings, we have these ideas and we are presenting about the importance of the library, and we've given a lot of data to you all about why. The why is really clear. It's now, how do we make this happen? And I just think that in order for us to move the project forward, we need you all to partner with us and say, yeah, we believe in this project and we want to support this. And I don't know what happens next. I guess that's up to you all.
So let me ask you a question hypothetically. Let's say we put this to a bond vote. The bond vote fails. What do we do? What do we do after that? What's the next step beyond that?
Well, I think simultaneously we're going to be fundraising, and I think with the support of you all, then we know that we have your back, you have our back to go up forth and start like really pushing this and fundraising and talking about the importance of our town library and why it is such an important part of the center of our town and our community. I think right now the elephant in the room has always been kind of like tiptoeing around this project, and we really want to make this project. We're going to be celebrating the 200th anniversary this summer with our summer reading kickoff that's going to launch it. People are going to be on the town green. They're going to be thinking about, the history of the town and also the potential for reimagining what this library could be. And I think at this point, I think we've danced around it for too long, that we need to take action. I think with your backing and your support, it will provide us with that, with the right messaging and impact to go forth and do more significant fundraising.
Yeah, I think it's a laudable project. I mean, it's been around a while, and it got slowed down before because of the cost. But the problem we're facing right now is economics for the town itself. And the people, there's also the push to do a bond vote for wastewater come next year as well. And that's asking an awful lot of the public. That when we don't know.
And eventually bringing water to Jericho Center and
Yeah.
the infrastructure that we need.
So we need to think about this. That's for sure.
Yeah, I think it's one thing that we talked about at the beginning of this session. Every town meeting, there's technically a new select board, even if it doesn't change, it's kind of a new version of it. One thing we talked about was, how do we continue to move forward? How do we get more done? We hear town capacity. I've heard that since I've been on the board. And so the way that we've chosen to try to do that, this year's version of the select board, is to prioritize. And this has not made our priority list. And I know that heartbreaking to hear, but like we can't even get to, we can't even fund most of the things that we desperately know that we need. If we don't fund things that get more people into the town, that get more families, like there's gonna be no kids to go to the library. And that's, you know, one thing that we've had to, you know, in discussions with the planning commission, in discussions with ourselves, we have to go full bore on the infrastructure. I think that's everyone agrees that that is the way to encourage any kind of housing that isn't $800,000, right? I don't see how a budget, like how an item like this fits into a priority like that. That's my own take on it. I love that library, and you guys do an amazing job with what you have there. And you know, I love Jericho Center. It's like, you know, it's this perfect little area that, you know, that we all love. But with all that, I don't see how it fits into our priority.
It's totally clear, like, right? Like, what are the basic needs that need to be met first? And a library doesn't necessarily fall into the basic needs. I guess another way to think about it is this building is owned by the town, and right now it's not safe and it's not accessible. And that doesn't feel okay either, right? We would not want that for any of our town buildings, right? We want to make sure that people that are working in these buildings and going to programs, small children going to programs in these buildings are going to be safe, but also that everyone can access it. So I totally get it, like what the priorities are, and that makes complete sense. And that's where this is kind of like, I don't know, we're kind of at a loss too. I mean, I guess.
Yeah, I get.
Have you thought
The other
about
thing is-
anything that you can do in the short term to make it more
Yeah, one
accessible?
question I was gonna ask is this recommendation list, do you have a quote on those 7 items? So
You mean like-
provide like the recommendation for continuous use of the building, like do we have a quote on that?
So I think that is
Yeah.
included in
Yes.
like the structural repairs, which is quoted, or not quoted, but estimated that it
Estimated.
could be $100,000. And then the foundation, replacing the foundation
Mhm.
was estimated at 80,000.
So you're looking about 200,000 for the general maintenance, the foundation and the structural repair.
Plus all the other, you know, costs and fees, right? So I mean, it's probably, I don't know, 250. I have no idea. We'd have to ask Via, but yes. There is like, you know, we originally thought about, well, what if we do this in a lot of different phases? But the problem is we get through phase 1 and the building might be structurally sound, but then we haven't addressed the accessibility issue.
I don't know that you can access like, I get, the thing with the accessibility is that's what gets you into the millions. That's what turns $250,000 into 1 point, you know, it adds $1 million.
Right.
And I understand that they weren't thinking about that in 200 years ago when they
Nope.
built the building. So I get it. But the other thing to think about is some people with disabilities don't even have access to our town because we have no affordable housing. Not that it goes hand in hand, but you know what I mean? Like,
Fair.
we get it,
Yeah.
get it, but
And the library is really it centers equity in everything. So even if you don't live in the town or you do live in the town, and whatever housing you have, you can always come into the library and access the internet, a warm space, non-judgmental, you know, community. You can just, it's a place where, you know, anyone can be there. And I totally hear what you're saying. And right, I mean, I think we just need to offer the flip side to it, right? I mean, people can't afford to live in our town. And we have a library that is not accessible to the people that do live in our town, or potentially new people that might move in.
And unfortunately,
we do have a library that is accessible though.
Right.
Right, so that's a little bit of a stretch. Sure, the one that you'd like to go to that's cute and in the green and in the perfect spot to hang out after is not accessible. But
Well,
the
I
one
mean,
that's by the
yes.
school
Yeah,
is
but-
the one that's,
That's right. And unfortunately, there's a lot of people in town who say, why do we need 2 libraries?
there are.
Well, and I would argue that we don't need to be offering an expansion of that library when our library, you know, be pushing to expand that library when this library, when I say our library, it's only because I'm on the board. I go to that library too. I dropped my daughter off at school there. It's part of the Jericho Underhill Library District. We have a very unique situation with our libraries.
But there are people who would vote the bond down for that reason, because they are focused on the other line.
Right.
We're
I mean-
in fact, there's 2.
Yeah.
Well, Underhill is technically straddles the 2, right? So, yes, all those points, we're constantly revisiting those, and we're tired of like dancing around it. I mean, like, it's not just that it's cute, it really serves a purpose for a lot of families, for a lot of young people, for a lot of older people in our community. There's a lot of people that access that library, and I know, it might feel like a cute project. But I do think that's an appealing part of our community is the town center, and the fact that when you're on the green, you can access various parts of our community and feel like you're part of something vibrant and really part of the fabric of the community. So I understand the argument. I think this is the most complex library situation probably, I don't know, because of this situation. I just can't imagine if the other library is going to be asking for a bond vote for an expansion, and we don't even have a structure, like.
That's why I'd
structurally
rather
sound.
see focus on the structure to make it structurally sound if you're going to keep the building.
I didn't realize that the other one was gonna be.
I didn't know that either.
Oh, yeah, they're looking at it, but then, as they say, it's a process, anything when you're looking for a bond, is gonna take 2 to 3 years.
How do you know that? How do you know that they're looking at
Because I
expand?
know people on the board.
And we've been, they put out an RFP.
Yeah. And you have a former select board member who's a member of that board.
Mhm. Yeah, I gotta say, I mean, I haven't always said anything, the two paths are both untenable, like
Yeah,
losing the library is not okay. And bonding for $2 million is also not okay.
No.
that's why I'm thinking at least do something to keep the structure functional.
Yeah.
Even though it's not ADA accessible, at least the structure is functional, so the people who can access it now still can access it.
Yes, and that simultaneously, we can be fundraising. I mean, I think what we need is your support, really for you to have the Jericho Town Libraries back, says a lot. And with that support, then we can be doing more substantial fundraising and really put strong efforts into communicating why this library is so essential to our community. Maybe thinking about, a way that we can meet somewhere in the middle or somewhere along the way. So that we can be working towards both those goals, both the structural integrity and the accessibility.
I think, what you're looking for, we probably can't answer tonight. I like the way you phrased that last bit was compelling, because I think we all do have a fondness for that library and zero appetite to go to ask for a bond. And so I don't know what that might look like, the backing of the town to say, townspeople, you really need to, you need to, like, I'd rather just ask them for the money, like, go donate,
Yes.
than go vote and force all the people who don't care about having that library there to pay for it. You know what I mean? Like,
I mean, Eric, what you're saying is exactly what we want to hear. It's like, you all care about the library. If we could ask people in the town to care, give whatever you can to support this library project. There's some people that probably could provide a significant amount of support, and there's others that could provide whatever works for them. But I think right now, in the past, we've been kind of like tiptoeing around this and,
Tiptoeing around what?
tiptoeing around this project, and like, because of the complexity of the library issues and, in our
We own the
town.
building, you
Yeah.
own the business, there's 2 libraries in town.
Well, it's all-
Exactly, it's
And there was
very,
already $1.5 million, a
it
little
doesn't
over
feel
a million
great
the
to say
first go
no.
around.
It doesn't feel.
No.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel great as a select board member to say, I'm not interested in making the library accessible to people with disabilities.
No,
It doesn't,
Not a good
you can't
look.
really say that.
Not a good
you know?
look.
Not a good
No.
look. Yeah, and,
You also need to make it safe.
but at the same time, I kind of think that's probably the compromise, like, if it's gonna cost $1 million to make it serviceable, you could bus people that get there to the other library anytime, day or night, for probably 20 years for $1 million, you know what I mean? Like,
I think different people use the different libraries for different reasons too, right? And so, right, I hear what you're saying. Yeah, so I mean, if we can, I think when we're asking for partnership, please feel free to chime in something so much talking. When we're asking, we just want to know that you all have the libraries back, and that we can go forth and really start talking to people about the importance of, we collected data, we did a survey, we've done all the things to demonstrate the impact of this library and what it means to people in our communities. So now we just need to have a strong campaign, essentially. And knowing that there's some ways that we can meet in the middle around both the town supporting the town-owned building, the municipal building, and the library board really putting in significant efforts to fundraise.
What do you think about, like, just this off the top of my head, if it sounds stupid, we'll remove it from the record. What if you just did like a big somebody that's smart and good at like publicizing things, probably not me, that says like, come talk about the future of the library.
Yeah.
Here's what we're facing, and give the same pitch that you gave
Right.
to us right now,
Yep.
to the townspeople, and see what they think about it. And like, hey, we want it to be accessible, and that cost us $1.8 million is our best guess. And what do you guys, what do you, people that use it the most, people that would hate to lose it, what would you say? I almost feel like you need a public campaign.
Yes, yes,
That the public is then pushing the select board, because we do, like, you're very organized, this is good, but we get a lot of feedback on both sides of all issues, you know.
Yes.
Yeah, we do.
I think that's a thing to consider.
Yeah.
Um,
It's certainly our plan
That is-
to have a public campaign and to continue applying for grants, even though the future of grant funding is uncertain for these kind of projects. It is helpful now, this is very new that we have these, more line item kind of cost estimates, which is very helpful for any fundraising
It's
effort.
helpful for anybody.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, what maybe we're asking for is if there is any more money, more than the $100,000 that could possibly be put towards the structural and accessibility components of the project, because it's easier to get additional funding if we can, kind of prove to the people we're asking for money from that at least part of this project is really going to go forward. That's one of the obstacles we've faced in our grant applications
Yes,
thus
it's the
far.
town's commitment, which obviously you've committed to, 100,000, but if, let's say we looked at the structural components of being, $250,000, and we could say the town has agreed to this amount, now we need to find matches. And I think we would have a much stronger campaign if we had that messaging behind it. And I do think, in my day job, I'm the executive director of a nonprofit. So I understand how to communicate and to do the fundraising. But I just, this, and I think we all on the board and our library director want to do this. We wanted, your idea was not a bad idea. That's what we've been talking about, is like, can we get this out to the public? But if we can say to the public, the select board, the town has committed X, now we need to raise Y, and we have one of those thermometers, or whatever it is. And
But we can't commit any money right now. We have to have a budget. Like, we don't have $100,000
No, because the budget's already
lying
approved
around.
Right.
for twenty.
Right.
For 2026.
Right.
I'm gonna wave the new guy card one more time, but like, we can't commit any money to speak of
No,
until we pass a budget.
that would be 2027.
Like, the most we could do would be to say like, we will commit to putting this dollar amount in the next budget. And
2027.
that would be the most that we could possibly
Yeah,
do.
because you already got the 2026 that starts in July.
Right, yeah.
Right. I mean, we're not like, the ground is not breaking, we're not like breaking ground anytime soon, right? I mean, this is gonna take time, but we now have the a strong partnership with VIA. I think we're looking for the next budget, what would that look like on top of the $100,000 that's already been committed to the library? That way we can, we can continue to message that this is what the town has committed to. How else can we support our library? I don't think we're gonna have any success with grants. There are no grants. There's none.
Yeah.
The historic preservation, there's like some, once we get things going, there's some parts of it that they might be able to, smaller grants, but other
3
than
years
that,
and 10 months might
Yeah.
be different.
yeah.
I think we're not gonna be able to give you anything specific tonight, but I do appreciate your time and all of this detailed information. You're right, that is much better than whatever we had. But we heard you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And Jim, I'm really trying not to do public comment. Can you go real fast?
I understand,
Real fast?
it is still a democracy here.
I know, but it's.
But that's, hold on, it is still a democracy, this is also a meeting in the public, not of the public.
Right.
So it is a democracy.
I heard that said, but I
So-
haven't seen.
So
part of
it is a
the
democracy,
Constitution.
Jim, it is a democracy, but Eric's in charge and Eric can decide who can speak when during the meeting.
And the
If you can go
LCT
quickly,
Very quickly.
thank you.
Peter had an ask. I think the real ask from all of the people that are here.
Hang on, we have,
I think the real ask is that can the leadership of Jericho participate and support a vision of the library that pulls its history and its present circumstances together so that it can pursue a public-private partnership which could have a challenge in it, where we're trying to raise the money and the select board at some point in time in the future could sit down and say, oh, okay, this could cost $2 million. And if $1.5 million is raised
yep.
by
it's a good point.
donations
It's a
and
good
so
point,
forth,
and
with pledges, et cetera, then the town could see its way towards contributing 25%. So Peter asked for what the ask is. I'm suggesting is that walking away from this without positive energy, without a path forward, because I think there's a great character and a presence for all of the community. And as one of the people who's trying to build housing.
Jim, we're so late. We're.
I think it
We've got a bunch of
will
people
help.
waiting.
I think it
Wait
would help
patiently for their
that we
agenda.
had a positive program, because the people we want to bring here have small children, and this is an asset to bringing them here.
We would underscore that. That would put an exclamation point on that, right? I mean, it is about the vision for the future, right? So no doubt.
That's why we're
that
here.
that
That's why we're
resonates,
here
right,
for
exactly.
everything
Yes,
we're doing
yes,
is for
totally.
the future.
Yes.
I get it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
Well, okay, so then I think I mean, if we can, what's the next step? But it's like, I think sometimes we leave these meetings and we're like, okay, we're moving forward with VIA and we're talking with them and we're gonna update them. And I'm sure they'll have ideas too, because they've worked on many libraries and I'm sure there has been many library campaigns. So would you all like an update in?
I think personally, in order for me to commit anything, I need to have more thought.
Okay.
Right, like I can't
Yeah.
just decide after a beautiful presentation with good data and
Sure.
just say, yes, we're gonna do this partnership. Yes, we're gonna figure out a way to carve money out of the budget. Like all the things I just need more time so that I don't feel like I'm being hasty. I don't know what that next step is. It's probably letting me think about it, letting me like chat with Paula a little bit when she's here. It's probably throwing it on another agenda item and say, hey, we owe them an answer on what the next step might be. And I think that's the best we can do is get to another agenda item that helps us figure out what the next step might be and what we do with this library.
Right, and please feel free to ask any questions that you have, because I know this was a lot of information and, there was a lot of discussion that went into this stuff. So if you're wondering what, why does something look the way that it does, we're happy to answer any questions.
It's a very clear explanation. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, approve Memorial Day Parade logistics. from
Oh,
Dan.
no, you got constitutional.
Oh, I'm sorry. Gosh, I'm sorry. Yes, sorry. Next agenda item is review and consider approval of resolution condemning attacks on due process and the constitutional right of all people in Jericho. And we heard from Peter already.
Yep.
Um,
And we also talked to our town attorney. And she's, given some very simple language that sounds good.
I'm looking from the language from
Claudine,
Claudine.
yeah,
Um,
that came separately.
Can I read these comments out loud, the colleague Claudine's thing?
yeah, I mean, I glanced at them. None of them seemed like earth shattering that we needed to make changes, but.
That was my feeling too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like,
What's the
comments, because she's got.
Next time, the simple one was resolution to uphold the Constitution and the town and the select board are committed to preserve due process and justice for all residents.
Is that the language?
That was his had he had more language, but she thought it was
The other three municipalities besides Rutland City that adopted resolution basically just took the Rutland City resolutions language, took out City of Rutland and put it in their own town name. They made some adjustments at the very end for, Rutland's got a chief of police, and some of the towns.
Right, exactly.
Law enforcement.
Yeah, it's lots of whereases and stuff. I mean,
I have it here in front of me, yeah.
but you could do, whereas the United States Constitution guarantees due process, equal protection, and fundamental rights to all persons regardless of citizenship, immigration status, race, religion, and political belief, and skip whereas, and go, therefore resolved that the town of Jericho affirms its unwavering commitment to protecting the constitutional rights of all people in our city, regardless of citizenship status, national origin, political belief, or any other identity.
They asked, why do you want to remove the language?
Because our town attorney thought that for us, it was better to be more simple in terms of the statement.
Ask why? I mean, is it putting you at risk? Is it?
Let's see what I printed out.
Well, I can talk about, I can talk about what you said, Catherine, is that I feel like it really dilutes
I know.
the power of the statement. And I didn't read Claudine's concerns as concerns so much as like, almost like feedback to an English student, like, oh, yeah, you're a little vague about this, but it wasn't, I didn't read them as concerns about like, oh, you're getting exposed here.
But then she said it seems to be the same thing could be said in the slightly slimmer fashion. And that's, that's why I went with her language.
Yeah, and it could, but I feel like
The two
the
municipalities that contested
We're
the
just,
language.
for now, we're talking just on the board, if you don't mind.
my feeling is that I personally am strongly supportive of this, and I feel like the things that Claudine said, I didn't hear as concerns so much as like,
More like suggestions.
more like, hey, you probably should have said this or could have said that, but whatever. And yes, what she gave was a slimmer version that may legally communicate the same thing. But it feels to me as one person on the board and as a citizen of our country, that this is someone who's trying to make an impact one town at a time across the state. And then from there, and it feels like if we go, well, we're not gonna sign this, but we'll say this, that it dilutes what this gentleman's trying to do, which I think is.
Yeah, it's a little.
Yeah, the language that was suggested is very close to what's already on our Declaration of Inclusion on our website. It's as part of our, Declaration of Inclusion. I will admit, I don't have strong feelings versus Claudine's version versus this version. I'll let the two of you figure out what motion you want to make and,
Well, I mean, it's based on what his process, we need to leave out the now therefore be it resolved. The Board of Aldermen, switch it to TOJ.
Sure.
And then the last two are real, because they have a police department, a mayor, chief police, and all that kind of stuff. We don't.
We don't have any of that, yeah.
But we could just,
Without a motion, can we decide that? Because what I don't want to do, just because it's inconvenient, is wordsmith this document. So like Alderman says select board and chief of police says whatever, but that. And I'm not sure how to say this.
That's why I went with the simpler way.
That we're supportive of this and we're going to adopt essentially this exact language. Except for the places where the governmental structures are different, and that we can pull that together and prove that at our next meeting.
Or
We could do.
can you take 5 minutes and update it in the Word document and read it? I mean, we could do that. I have it only in
I only have
PDF.
PDF, so I have PDF.
We might have the email from.
Oh, we do. Peter.
Mr. Franzone.
Probably still just the PDF. I don't think I included the Word document of the resolution.
Yeah.
I can provide that if you have Acrobat, if you have Microsoft Word in, go to PDF. If you highlight the words from PDF and Control-C, Control-X into Word, you should be able to edit.
Okay, you want me to read this, Eric?
Hang on, the article might have it in text that we can copy.
Yeah. You had the resolution for the tax on due process and affirming the constitutional rights of all people. Jericho. Right through tonight.
All right, so let's just do this out loud really quickly. Why don't I share my screen?
You have it?
Yeah, he does.
You have just
You're still
PDF.
sharing. I have the PDF. Yeah, hang on. Don't worry about it.
Oh, I had,
I'll,
oh, I guess I am the host. Yeah.
Okay, so looking really quickly, I don't see anything in the first one that needs to go. Looking in the second one, I don't see anything.
No.
Government, looking in this one.
Yeah, it's the now therefore is the first one. Be it resolved.
Sorry, I don't read as fast as you were in this one here.
That's because I already Xed in and circled it.
Oh, all right.
I rewrote it
Down one.
myself
therefore.
yesterday.
Okay, so down here.
So can I ask one question of Peter?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, what's your last name?
Franzone.
Peter Franzone. So I'm looking at do you write this? Is this your language?
Alderman Talbot wrote it.
Okay, so I'm wondering just logistically what the difference is between in the first be it therefore resolved where it says the city of,
Oops, sorry.
the Board of Aldermen of the city of Rutland, and then down one, Eric. And then the next one just says not the Board of Aldermen, but just the city of Rutland affirms. Is there a reason that one says the Board of Aldermen and one says the city of Rutland?
We felt that by saying city of Rutland, as with our constitution, when our constitution says all persons of the United States, that was meant to be inclusive of the people of the city of Rutland.
Okay.
So basically, the other city officials,
Okay,
as far as
so
this document was concerned,
Yes.
besides the Alderman.
so then now therefore be resolved. You want to read how that one would go, Peter?
So now therefore be it resolved that the
Select board
Select board of the
Jericho-
town of Jericho.
Select Board of the Town of Jericho unequivocally,
Yep,
and then be it further resolved that the Town of Jericho affirms its unwavering commitment,
okay, those are those two.
Be it further resolved that the Select Board of the Town of Jericho pledges to oppose,
And defend Jericho.
What's that?
And to defend Jericho.
Jericho as a community rooted in justice.
Oh, sorry, yes, okay, yeah, and to defend Jericho as a community rooted in justice. And then I think I would strike that whole next one.
Maybe just your town attorney.
I think we strike that next one. And then we leave that last one.
Make one invites.
I'm sorry, I am unaware what your local law enforcement structure.
We don't have
is.
We don't have one.
Yeah,
So
just Peter, if someone gets rowdy, we send Peter after him.
So I think strike the last two because we don't have any law enforcement to direct. This is how you need to be behaving and acting and you need to put the Constitution first. That would be the state police, which.
I propose, Peter, that you read it from the top as you want it,
The whole thing.
if you want the thing. Yeah,
You
I think it's what we're gonna need for the,
Okay. Sorry, Donna. Whereas the United States Constitution guarantees due process, equal protection, and I make a motion I make a motion to approve the following resolution. Whereas the United States Constitution guarantees due process, equal protection, and fundamental rights to all persons, regardless of citizenship, immigration status, race, religion, or political belief. And whereas recent actions by federal authorities, including the detention of legal residents in Vermont without clear justification or timely access to legal counsel, represent a dangerous escalation of government overreach and a violation of these constitutional protections. And whereas history has shown that when the rights of any group are violated, it opens the door for similar abuses to be carried out against others, first against immigrants, then against dissenters, and eventually against anyone who does not conform to these views of those in power. And whereas the silence of public officials in the face of such abuses amounts to complicity, and failure to act now will only embolden those who seek to dismantle the rule of law and divide our communities through fear. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Select Board of the Town of Jericho unequivocally condemns all violations of due process and the weaponization of government power
That should say over any individuals.
government power over any individuals. Be it further resolved that the town of Jericho affirms its unwavering commitment to protecting the constitutional rights of all people in our town, regardless of citizenship status, national origin, political belief, or any other identity. Be it further resolved that the Select Board of the Town of Jericho pledges to oppose any policy or action, local, state, or federal, that targets individuals based on who they are, where they come from, or what they believe, and to defend Jericho as a community rooted in justice, accountability, and equal dignity of all.
That sounds like a good way to end it for us.
Thank you. Bet you're hoping you get a second
All
on
right,
that.
I'll second that. After all that reading, yeah.
What was that middle part again? All those in favor say aye.
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 That's quickly, as I was reading that, I began to get a little emotional, honestly. Like, I
I've
really
been
appreciate you. I really appreciate you putting this work in.
Thank you.
It's powerful.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for your work.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Memorial Day Parade Logistics, Daniel O'Leary.
Hi, everyone. I'm on the screen here. Thank you very much. I will be quick as I need to be. I represent Mount Mansfield Masonic Lodge, and a few weeks ago, as you may be aware, Richard Becker, who used to organize the parade, passed away, I believe in December. And we found out a few weeks ago that the hot potato of the parade was coming to us. So we are very quickly putting the parade together. And what we are, it's going to follow the same as last year. It will start in the at Browns River Middle School, go down River Road to Park Street to Vermont Route 15, and it will end at Veterans Park. And we need the roads closed to host the Memorial Day Parade. We will have a ceremony, guest speaker from the Vermont Air Guard. We've got the Scouts to raise the flags. We've already got commitments from the Underhill Jericho Fire Department, and the Mount Mansfield Union Marching Band.
Timeline.
Well, I'm sorry, what was that?
What is the time on
Oh,
the road has to be closed?
Monday. It will be Monday, May 26th. And I'm telling people to start gathering no later than 10 a.m. in the middle school parking lot. And it will start at 11 a.m. We're hoping that it will go, we're setting a window of until 2 p.m. It never seems to take that long. And so the sheriff's department and the fire department will reopen the roads as the parade passes through.
That seems super late, isn't it? I mean, I live right there. It's
done by 11.
It's like a half hour. Yeah.
Yeah.
But maybe the over in the park, I think, does last longer.
Yes,
yeah,
If
for
people
sure.
mill around over
Also, Park Street is bummed up for a while.
Yeah, that little.
It depends on how much the speaker speaks. But yes, the actual parade aspect of it does not take that long. And honestly, the majority of it is in Underhill. They've already approved the closure. So we just need for the segment of road that's in Jericho.
Did they approve it from 11 to 2?
Yes, sir. I can't see. So there we are.
But it will only be from 11, for the River Road piece, it'll only be from 11 to whatever, till the parade's done.
Yes, that is correct.
We need a timeline to let people know, from like 11 to noon, maybe?
Yeah.
Yes, I'm putting signage up at select locations, and we've also posted in Front Porch Forum, so that folks know where to find it. And then I was also hoping that people in the community would share and help us out as much as possible, especially with finding more participants. We definitely need veterans to march, take part in the color guard and things like that.
Do you want to approve 11 to 2? That's okay.
It's fine.
I make
I
a
mean,
motion.
they're not really gonna do it.
Right, I know. That's
Like,
But the road will be closed.
Cause our piece
Yeah.
isn't even Park Street. I mean, our piece is just from Browns River to the edge of Park Street. That's gonna be closed for 20 minutes.
right.
But if we say 11 and 2, they're gonna throw the whole community off the rails because they're like, hey, why is it closing for 3 hours?
Right, I mean, that, they
I see
might.
what you mean. Can we just phrase it as
But if Underhill's
Up to-
from Park Street till 2, I mean.
starting at whatever, up until potentially that long, or?
I feel like we should, unless this throws you off, Dan, I would propose that we say from 11 to 12. And knowing that the whole event, the event goes much longer because that's all in Underhill. But the Jericho piece is just gonna be 11 to 12, is way more time than they need. Does that throw you off, Dan, if we do just?
No,
11?
that should be fine. In the notes that I got, it says that generally 11 until noon would be fine.
Okay, so I make a motion to approve the Memorial Day Parade closure of the Jericho section of River Road from 11 a.m. to noon on May 26th.
Six. I'll second that.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Is it ever gonna go back to all of Route 15, JES down to Browns River?
I honestly do not know. This came to me on very short notice, so I'm kind
Okay.
of
You're
putting it together.
You're holding a
And,
hot potato, okay.
So the
next
last-
year, I'm kind of seeing like, all right, the first one I'm hoping to just replicate last year, and then next year maybe we'll start planning in November. So
I think last year that question got
Somebody
asked,
raised their
Peter,
hand.
of the, I guess the gentleman that must have passed away,
Yeah.
and he said that he's getting a lot of pushback from VTrans
About
on
15.
15 being closed for that long, and that's why it's doing what it's doing now. That's what, he got that question a couple of years in a row, and so that's why I remember.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting though, because like Richmond can, some of the other towns can close like Route 2 or other major roads for the July 4th parades, which, take a while.
True. So anyway, maybe it could be explored and we could get that in writing or something from VTrans, so we would have that, so people don't have to get asked every year, or potentially have the chance to go do it again.
You got a hand raised.
Oh, gosh, I didn't think we were doing public comment for this. Vincent, do you have a quick comment?
he is part of the team that's
Oh,
organizing.
okay,
the parade.
he's fine then. Go ahead, Vincent. Vincent, you are muted if you're trying to talk.
You got the hand up.
Maybe it might be up by accident.
Hold on, I'm gonna try to text him.
Yeah, he's muted, yeah.
Yeah, hold on. I just sent him a text message. But I'm hoping that Vince has his hand raised.
There we go. I found the unmute button.
Okay.
All right. So I found out from Kevin at Ace Hardware this week that the permitting process with the state was cumbersome and he got tired of dealing with it. That's why they changed the route. But I would suggest with our lodge that we're going to look into this next year to bring it back into Jericho every other year like we used to.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's good to know.
Okay.
Thank you very much for your
Thank
time
you.
and
Thank
thank
you.
you for your
Thanks for helping
support.
to organize it last minute.
Well,
Next.
We'll see you then.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda, we have appoint a new animal control officer. I'm guessing that's you.
Oh, hello. I actually really don't have any time because I'm late to turn in my animals and I'm really anxiety ridden.
Poor babies.
I'm Colby. I have my entire life dealing with domestic animals, ranging from cats, dogs, exotic animals, and horses. In high school, I went to a veterinary school and I was on the equestrian team. I started getting into farm animals. And now I am on year 3 of, Millbrook Acres is our farm name. 2 years we got flooded out right when we were at harvest. So it's been a really hard time. But I have been doing boarding and training of dogs for about 8 years. And it's just grown and I get to work with the public in that aspect already. So it would be immensely helpful in order to resolve a lot of the dog and neighbor issues that we can come across.
And I guess I don't know, that we lost I didn't realize.
That was my question. Did
Yeah,
we just have this conversation?
Yes, we had reappointed Olivia, who was our previous animal control, but she had some medical issues that surfaced and she needed to resign.
Okay.
And family issues, and so Colby is an acquaintance or friend, neighbor of Olivia, and so that's how we got in touch with Colby and reached out and asked if she was interested, and Paula and I have met with her and talked to her about the position and all that kind of stuff. So that's how that all.
Colby Wilder as the animal control officer.
I'll second that.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry
Thanks for waiting through so much.
2.5 hours. You were before 6 o'clock.
Thanks
so much.
I think actually a really good result for the library issue, if you go to Wheeler Park, they have that pledge board. I know that like we don't do big signs and that's kind of part of our zoning, but potentially that might make them emotionally feel better to have like the placard.
A visual.
The visual, yeah.
Like a library.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Okay, we're not doing the 30,000. No. Next on the agenda is to discuss the committee handbook, which will be distributed to all committee members on July 1st as a resource for addressing town-related issues.
I did read it, and it's actually only 13 pages.
I read it all.
It's got, there's some formatting stuff that just kind of personally drives me crazy, and I was gonna, before I knew Paula wasn't gonna be here, I was gonna tell Paula like that I'd be willing to go through and deal with the formatting and then make some edit suggestions as well. I wouldn't make edits without you guys seeing them ahead of time. But it's a pretty intimidating document.
Yeah, it is.
If you say you want to join the Conservation Commission and you're handed this, it's a lot.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I saw that it was a ton of text about the open meeting law. And I thought including all of that, like, could we just have a link?
That could be like, it could be like 4 sentences and a link.
Yeah. In fact, they
I mean,
have,
all of it, like minutes, like we've got an entire page here about minutes.
all that can be condensed.
And I don't care about that unless I'm the chair or something. Like, not, it's just.
But I think it would be good to, it'd be good to clarify, I think you do need minutes,
Right.
you know,
Right.
and.
They need an agenda but
Yeah.
these are the rules you have to follow as a committee. And it's a different, in how you meet is also different whether you're advisory or, not advisory.
Right, exactly. You're a decision-making body or not.
Yeah, you have to be hybrid, but if you're just, on the task force or committee, you can just be remote all the time. I mean, they have given that, but, yeah, I mean, there were some things that I went, because I thought this is very intimidating. And then in terms of the other committees, they need to know the other committee titles exist, so you're not siloed, but you don't need to know everybody's info. I think the chair of the committees having their, mission and their,
My guess is that this is that all the missions are in here so that you can just hand this and say, here you go. And I can go, oh, I'm on the planning commission. Let me find that one.
Yeah.
And ignore all the rest.
Yeah.
But that can be indicated better in the document to say,
But see, if you're gonna give everybody a copy of it, what you want is just those very, very basic things that you talked about.
Right.
And only the chair needs to have their own committee material so that they can, if, you know, present that to a new committee member rather than everybody else having it. Because it, you know, even if you wanted to
I
look
think
it
that
up.
actually calling this the volunteer handbook for committee chairs.
Yeah,
And then have it be a little more in-depth, and then have a 2-page version
right,
for committee members.
yeah.
So I'm happy to talk with Paul about that with the target date of having it ready to go, having it done by July 1st, which was the date that she had. I'd be
Why don't
happy
you
to
just do, like, because we have a long time before our next one,
Right.
like, can you just do it,
Just do
work
it
with Paula, and then have her say, hey, select board, here's what I have, and then we can.
Yeah.
I
Then we can
Yep.
improve it.
and I think we all
Yeah, 'cause
agree,
that
like,
is-
what the
Yeah.
general tone is.
Yeah,
okay.
because that is your, you know, your expertise. But yeah,
Or honestly, probably after, July 4th, June 4th, I can probably sit down with you and do it.
yeah.
In secret, not tell anybody.
But yeah, because there's some things that I think really can be cut down.
Do you know where this came from, Linda?
Well, a lot of the text is right from the VLCT website.
Probably.
Yeah.
uh,
That's what I,
give it
that's what I felt.
Yeah.
Like someone had just grabbed all.
Yes,
the existing.
and some of it I think is from a similar document that was developed, I think it was in New Hampshire by their equivalent of the Vermont League of Cities and Towns organization.
Yeah, it's very intimidating and it doesn't need to be because even, you know, the VLCT will tell you it doesn't need to be that long.
Yeah, I definitely think it can be simplified and
Because-
abbreviated.
If you give them more than each, because we ask a lot of our volunteers anyway.
Yeah, and if you hand them this, they're gonna be like,
I'm
Yeah.
done.
but if you hand them 2 pages, they'd probably read it.
Right.
They would probably read 2 pages, they might even question 10.
Yeah.
Okay, so you want to maybe just tell Paula that, when
Okay.
is she back Monday or is she going from? work?
Yeah, she'll be back Monday.
She's just out training.
Yeah, she's
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is great.
Yeah, so I'll reach out to her and we can
Okay.
get together and are you able to share me a digital version of this?
Yeah, I think I have it. I must have it somewhere in Word. Would you want it in Word?
And really
Yep.
just the first
The first
The
chunk.
first 15, the first.
I,
chunk.
yeah, I know what you're talking about.
And
Yep.
then there's some things that are in the appendix that are also important.
Yep,
Because the other important one that needs to be understood by all committee members is conflict of interest. And we have a very strong conflict of interest policy that is in the personnel policy that needs to be in here, not just a addendum.
Yep.
Mhm.
Because that's really part of the ethics now that's coming from the state as well, the conflict of interest.
Mhm.
Yeah. Okay, does that sound like an okay, Peter will take a stab at it to work with Paula. They'll send that out to the board unless there's something egregious. And then I'll actually read it. And we'll go from there. Next on the agenda is approved liquor licenses from Griffin Writers on 510, 516, and 524.
Can we just say that, I have the application here from Jessica, can I just say what that says?
Yep.
Make a motion to approve the liquor licenses from Griffin Riders for May 10th, May 16th, and May 24th.
Yep, I would just add at Mansfield Barn, Jericho.
At Mansfield Barn, Jericho.
I'll second that.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. I have to say aye because I already approved them.
Right, because we're already done. Oh,
Right, yeah, because you had to.
Because that's kind of the process we came up with. They'll call the chair and
Yeah.
like.
yeah.
Particularly if for the ones that are either before or real close to
Yeah.
the meeting. Because otherwise, you know, you can come to the meeting.
Thank you.
Yep.
Selectboard updates. I have a couple. So Paula sent some.
Paula sent them.
I wanted to share something with the two of you. And hopefully I did not overstep because, well, I sent it from me, but it was a coordinated thing that I sent and I want to get it in the public records. I'm going to pull up my email. maybe you read, so I guess I'll do the same thing. This is the email that I sent from me to the Wisdom House folks. I addressed it to Greg Tatrell, Bill Butler, and Michael Oman. Thank you for your advocacy in bringing additional senior housing to Jericho. There have been recent discussions about your project team working in collaboration with the town to make Wisdom House a reality. It is too early for the town of Jericho to make any kind of commitment. However, we are interested in learning more about your project and the type of partnership you are interested in. We would also like to articulate town priorities and features we would like to see in Wisdom House. Include, we are interested in learning more about project details not shared with the town of Jericho. What lots have been purchased or are you looking at for Wisdom House? How soon can a site-specific concept plan be provided? What are the anticipated septic capacity needs? What roads, sidewalks, and site access are needed for the project? There are several priorities the town wants to see incorporated into any project that receives its formal support. Affordable housing. What levels of affordability does the project include? How many units of each and how will they be managed and maintained as affordable? Diverse housing. What range of housing types and price points does Wisdom House include? Building program. How does the design of the building realize the vision for Riverside, specifically activating ground floors and animating streetlight? Wastewater. How can Wisdom House help Jericho realize its goal to bring municipal water to Riverside? Local business development. How can much space?
That Riverside already has water.
That was wastewater.
Wastewater.
Local business development. How much retail space in the building will be set aside for local entrepreneurs and how much of it will be managed and maintained as local business incubator space? Providing this information will help the town of Jericho inform its decisions in determining the best for Wisdom House. That is something that I sent myself based on conversations with Susan, Paula, and Chris Shaheen. And what we were attempting to do, and we can talk about it as a board, if there's things on there that you want to add or exclude or clarify. We're struggling with what next steps are for Wisdom House. We get a lot of excitement. There's a lot of excitement. There's a lot of presentations. There's a lot of there's just a lot of talk and energy about Wisdom House, and it's hard to. I personally found it very hard to figure out what the specific next thing is that town of Jericho was being asked for, and so based on some help, that's what we sent, in hopes that will help us figure out what that next step might be. So we would have something in front of us to confirm or deny, approve or decline or whatever.
Well, I know one of the major drawbacks is the fact that they want a 90,000 square foot building where people actually at one point tried to get, right now we're sitting at 60,000 square feet, and there was an initiative not that long, a few years ago, that only lost by a few votes to drop the square footage to less than 60,000.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a problem right there. And number two, funding capacity is really also another issue,
Right.
funding capacity.
Yep. And there was a lot of discussion at the planning commission meeting about the size and and I think some of that discussion is kind of what prompted us to try to help us as a town get to the point of we can try to figure out what specifically we could do. And so that was an attempt at that.
I mean, that's one reason why we talked about the smaller septic, because that would help Pedro still, develop there, but is Wisdom House going to take it all, or what do we need here? Yeah, that's a good question.
So anyway, that was done. We could certainly, anyway, I wanted to share that with you. I have no legal way of sharing it with you, or even on a 5-person select board, I couldn't just blast that out and tell you. So I just
I think those are good questions, because it's a real difficulty to ask. That you can't just say you can have this project can have 90,000 square feet, because then that's spot zoning, and that's sort of like a no-no.
But even that aside, I'm finding the whole wisdom house thing, which I 100% want to have happen. I want it to happen. But that's why I asked to sit down and sat down with Bill and Mike for an hour here, to sort of say like, tell me what are you doing? What do you need from the town? And I sort of was left without a great sense of what they need or how we can help or what the next moves are. And
Yeah, and that was a similar conversation that I was having with Chris and Susan and we're hoping that some of these questions, if those really were to get answered, I think that would help us get to past that feeling that you had, and I think a lot of us have, and like,
Yeah, I
we
think,
love, we support it, it looks
we
cool.
want it to happen. What's the next step?
But what?
What's the next step?
because I think it's important to hear from Pedro because he still owns the land.
Right.
So yeah, that thank you, Eric. That was great.
Yeah, that's good.
I'm sorry, Paula sent an email that I'm not.
Yeah.
Right in front of me.
I've got the her updates.
Yeah,
I'm gonna just read them as her.
no, so I have the document, but I can't find, like, she included text in the email
Oh, okay.
that I don't have. Oh, here it is.
She really does want some feedback on the highlighted
Yep,
number 5 there.
you do not need to discuss items 1, 2, 4, or 6.
There,
We do have
yes.
to discuss 6.
Okay. So the first item that she wanted, that means number 3. Number 3, I don't know if we can decide this because it's not on the agenda. Number 3 is the Jericho Bike and Ped Committee, the Raceway Road project.
No, that's really an action item, if you want to make a decision. But since they don't know if they have the grant, I mean, that's what you're waiting on.
And my feeling is that I don't wanna do anything without talking to them about what they wanna do. I feel like that they're the drivers, I think we were at the VLCT meeting when they had the meeting at the town, at the Deborah Rawson Library. They had a meeting that a few of the members of the committee went to. And so I wanna know what their feeling is coming out of that meeting, just where they're at before we. And I had asked Paula, where things at, what's the bike ped committee feeling about what they want to do, and she said to me, they're waiting to find out if they received the grant. Once they hear back, they'll decide whether to proceed or let it go. So I feel like there's nothing really for us to do until they decide what their next move is.
Okay, the next item to discuss was the support for the Jericho residents, the Nashville Road Grant process. So this is the issue where Millbrook flooded over on Leary Road. We talked about an MOU. She has a question for us. The select board has agreed to develop an MOU for residents participating in this grant. Should we include the approximate amount of 7,524 in the MOU? I thought we had, for some reason I thought it was up to 5,000.
I think that's what they have to provide, is we had said we would provide up to 5 between, I think it was between the town work and.
Oh, so she means include the approximate amount of that they would have to.
Right, yes. And then so she said typically the money gets placed in escrow, you get the money beforehand. That's when the grant has been.
I see what you're saying. I see what she's saying. Yeah, that
Yeah.
makes sense. Okay.
Typically, like with the old Red Mill, we had already applied for the grant.
Yeah.
And then the MOU was signed. With Bittersweet, it was sort of worked at the same time, but the money didn't have to be put in escrow until it was proved whether you approved the grant or not, because there's no point in them putting money aside if you're not going to get the grant. But you should have the MOU saying that I'm going to provide this money if the grant is given.
Yeah, I
given.
get it. I guess I don't need the money up front personally, I don't feel the need for the money up front to get the grant, because if we don't get the money and we do get the grant, we don't have to accept the grant.
Right, exactly.
So
You have up until you put the shovel in the ground, to change your mind.
yeah, so I don't need it up front. I do think, though, to her question, that we should include it in the
Include it.
MOU.
That makes sense.
Yeah, the
Or at
MOU.
least, I don't know if you could, I don't know if it makes sense to include the exact dollar amount, if there's a chance that it changes, but if there's no chance that it changes,
Mm.
then yeah, let's put the exact dollar amount.
Yeah, and I don't know whether there's the possibility that it will change. I can talk to Paula about that.
Yeah, so whatever makes sense.
Yeah.
Either state that they cover the rest, or state that they
would
they
cover
come
the
up
rest,
with
yeah.
this exact amount or whatever.
Mhm.
But
Yeah.
I personally, unless Peter disagrees, I don't know that I.
Because we've already said how much
It'd
we
just
would.
be weird, right? They'd hand us $7,500. We
Right,
hang on,
and
they don't
hold
get
it,
it, we
get a
gotta get
grant,
it back.
yeah,
No.
I'd rather not do that.
No,
Okay.
you want the MOU, to say that they would cough up their portion of the match.
Okay.
And it doesn't need to be a number, it's just their portion of the match, because
Mhm.
we've already said what our limit was. And then, if the grant's already, because if they not even apply for the grant right now, then that's a real issue, that the grant should be already in application.
Okay, so no action on that.
That's what
Yeah,
we
I mean,
just
there
said.
really shouldn't be action on anything with updates, it's just a chance to discuss. Other updates I have as chair, I don't think so. I think that's all I had.
Well, Paul also had the select board retreat,
Oh, she had that on the list of ones we don't have to talk about.
except for then the bottom says, please choose a date.
Oh, okay. Well,
Was there a date?
No, she didn't.
I didn't see a year or name the dates, but yeah. So anyway, think about dates.
I'm
Anyway,
gonna propose that it be after school gets out,
that makes sense.
whatever date that might be, I don't know.
Mhm.
I have a quick update.
Okay.
We had a bid opening yesterday for the Riverside Sidewalk project. And so that's the one that's going to be
Yep.
constructed from Park Street to the entrance to Jericho Market.
Yep.
We got 4 bids that were all very competitive. Yeah, 2 were above the engineer's estimate and 2 were below the engineer's estimate.
That's really good.
Yes.
We're just bidding right now? Aren't we building it like next month?
That's why I was like, I thought we were.
Aren't we
I thought
building
we're
this
like-
year?
Yes.
And we don't have a builder yet?
Well, you have to bid to get the builder.
But it just feels like, I would have thought we'd been doing this 6 months ago, and everyone, they can build this summer, everyone who bid can build right now?
Yeah, it's in the bid documents, it needs to be completed by November. Ideally, we're trying to get it all wrapped up before the harvest market if possible, but we have to sit down with the awarded contractor and kind of hammer out the schedule.
So Peter's gonna
So-
be retired, he's gonna have brand new sidewalk and just walk up and down the road
Walk
on.
down the road. That seems, I
Jealous.
think it should be done before harvest market.
Yeah, that's what we're shooting for.
But you said November was what the bid said.
It does, but we also had in there that they have to avoid the time period around the harvest market, so we don't want to be having work done basically from the week before the harvest market up until after the event's over.
That makes sense, because there's a lot of people.
Yeah.
I think that we should have been doing this 6 months ago, and that we should already have somebody and have it.
Well, we couldn't have done it any earlier than we did it because we had to wait for VTrans to approve all the steps that they have to go through. So we did it as soon as we were approved to do the bidding, we did the bidding. I agree. Ideally, we would have bid it like last
Yeah.
fall
Yeah, that's why I
or
was
something.
reacting when you said bidding, I'm like,
Yeah, I
I'm
was like,
thinking of a
wait,
different
what?
sidewalk.
No, so we thought we'd be bidding it much earlier, but there are also some things that VTrans had to figure out with the change in the federal administration because it's really federal money that's paying for the sidewalk. And so there were some things that they had to figure out internally to make sure the money was still there. So we got some good bids. The engineer is going to be doing a bid analysis to kind of make sure that all the bids included all the items and that everything that is in there's everything's in there that's supposed to be in there. But we think that's good news and we'll have someone selected probably in a week or 2.
Cool,
Yeah.
that's great.
I have one update. We had the movie in April on Plastic People. And it was very interesting, a lot of turnout, and people, were wondering how the one community in Ontario was able to, as a community, do away with public plastic, plastic, across the community. And we have now been able to secure via Zoom at the regular Jericho Energy Task Force meeting on Monday at 7 p.m. A representative from the town of Ontario that will be joining us on Zoom and being able to answer questions on how the town actually got rid of plastic.
That's cool.
So anybody who saw the movie and is interested, contact me for a Zoom link. And I'm also going to put it in Join in Jericho and of course in Front Porch Forum. But it's very cool that, because the question is, how can it, is it a small town in the middle of nowhere that it doesn't have any other impact, or do they have other, communities nearby that, it would be tougher to do. So it's going to be interesting. But, one of our members reached out and a member from the body of in Ontario.
Wow.
Bayview, I think it is Bayview, said that they would be glad to talk to us. So, hey, this is very cool.
That's cool. Peter?
I just have a couple of questions that were for Paul, but maybe Linda can answer if she knows.
I could try.
This is a couple of these that haven't been here for the last two meetings. Tyler, when I left, Tyler was gonna be looking at Raceway.
Oh, yeah.
And the old pump in front of Palmer's for paving in front of Palmer's, and then for just evaluating the Raceway situation. Do you know about where that all landed?
I don't have any information on
I
that.
did ask for an update a while ago and we hadn't heard back from him. So we probably just need to bug him again if we could just get Paul to know about
Yeah,
that.
okay.
Oh, another question. Paul had sent out website, wanted to change the website.
Yeah.
To the website platform.
Yep.
Who's gonna migrate the site, That's gonna cost money.
The
Time.
new web host company has staff that would do all of that.
It would migrate the whole thing over.
Yeah, a lot of towns do like civic.
I did not get a chance to click on those, but I will. I'm interested in it.
Yeah.
Okay, that's all that I have.
Okay, approve the warrants. I signed mine. Next is approve the meeting minutes like 5-1.
I only had a, little niggly, tiny little thing. And that was line 152.
See you, Tom. Thanks for coming.
Thank you, Tom. And it said, it's line 152. He thinks the board needs to have recommendation, so it needs to have recommendation.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
It's just very tiny. Otherwise, it's, fine.
You will make a motion to
I will
approve.
make a motion to approve the minutes with corrections as noted.
I second that. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Executive session? I guess I have one small update. I don't have much, so. But I'll need a motion to enter it. Anyone remembers how to do it?
I'd like to make a motion to go into executive session for the purpose of,
Because,
personnel, legal,
personnel.
purpose of personnel, because premature disclosure of the information would be detrimental to parties involved, and I'd like to invite Linda Blush.
I'll second that motion.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Good night, everybody.
Okay.